Chapter 28-34, Count Me In. 2. The representatives of the 5 families were filled with regret. But it was too late. Not only that, an extremely disdainful voice rang out in the ears of the 5 representatives at this time. They said that they don't like the fact that we've arranged for other families as well. They didn't say. Absolutely not. He only thought about it. Hearing this slander, the faces of the 5 representatives turned even paler. The faces of the other people present did not look too good either. Needless to say, the other families were definitely referring to them. Therefore, all the clans present were enraged. However, since Uncle Long and the others were present, they didn't dare to show their anger. Otherwise, they would be guilty of the crime. Moreover, the person who had spoken had yet to appear. Wasn't it obvious that he was trying to frame them to the end? At the thought of this, some families immediately protested. Uncle Long, who's that? Let him come out and confront us. How can he wrong us like this? Do you really want to confront it? Uncle Long glanced at the person who spoke and asked with uncertainty. Of course. Facing Uncle Long's meaningful look, the man cowered a little, but he still gathered his courage and said loudly. Since he had already said it, he naturally didn't want to be looked down upon. So, now that he was being forced to do it, he had to bite the bullet. Senior Tsang, someone wants to confront you. After hearing this, Uncle Long looked at the person who spoke with a gratified expression and shouted in a certain direction. Fuck. Why is it another senior? The person who had braced himself to confront him was completely dumbfounded. He knew what kind of old man he had provoked. When he heard Uncle Long call him senior, his little heart began to tremble violently. The time he had to wait for the other party to appear seemed so long, making him feel as if he was in hell. In fact, he really wanted to say, Senior. You don't need to come out, he doesn't want to confront you. He admitted to this crime. But when he opened his mouth, he couldn't say what he wanted to. Then, everyone saw a white light flash in front of their eyes. Then, a snow-white palm-sized kitten appeared in front of everyone and steadily landed on the head of the little Qilin. Such courage. Seeing the little white cat that landed on the head of the small Qilin, everyone thought in unison. When they saw that the little Qilin was not angry at the snowy white kitten's actions, they were even more surprised. One had to know that Qilin was one of the top beasts. As for cats, since when could he climb to the top of the Qilin's head? Could it be that the cat race had risen to power without them knowing? Everyone was puzzled. The carefree Azure only glanced at the crowd before turning his gaze to the person he wanted to confront. He narrowed his bright eyes and said, You want to confront me? I. The man was so depressed and scared that he couldn't even finish a sentence. Seeing this, Tsang was extremely disappointed. Why was the current divine realm full of trash? These guys, it's a waste of food to keep them alive. They should really be sent back to the furnace to be remade. Thinking of this, he saw Azure from the corner of his eye and smiled evilly. Mu Li, how about you help me? What favor? Mu Li raised his eyebrows and asked. Put all this ice ore back into the furnace. Little Tsang pointed his claws at the crowd and shouted. Thanks. Hearing this, Mu Li's mouth twitched and he was speechless. I can help you with this, but I don't know when. He said helplessly. It doesn't matter. I'm not in a hurry anyway. Azure said unconcernedly. That's good. Mu Li was relieved. He was afraid that Tsang would ask him to melt it down now, because the amount of work would definitely not be small. Among the people present, except for Uncle Long and the others, no one else knew what meltdown meant. But when they saw the man and the cat dumbing, they could tell that it was definitely not a good thing. When they thought of a certain possibility, some of the family representatives who reacted quickly immediately cried out, Senior, we know we were wrong. Please let us go. Sobs. No matter how they were sent back to the furnace, they didn't want to experience it. Wrong? Where did I go wrong? What is it? Azure narrowed his eyes and asked indifferently. We We should be able to see where we are. Someone immediately replied, and the others followed suit. Then can you see where you are now? Azure continued to speak in a neutral tone. In fact, it wasn't that it had to send these people back to the furnace, but it was absolutely necessary to scare them. I saw it clearly. I definitely saw it clearly. Everyone said in unison. If that's the case, then all of you better behave yourselves. If anyone dares to create trouble for me, don't blame me for being impolite. After threatening him like this, Tsang even deliberately showed his meaty little claws. Ice Spirit's mouth twitched when she saw it. She thought, can such meaty claws threaten people? However, reality proved that Azure's threat was very effective. In addition, there were many reverent gods in Demon City, and all of them acted as if they were idle and bored, not afraid of others coming to cause trouble. Therefore, for a time, those who had some small ideas all quieted down. Uncle Long and the others even showed their magnanimity and forgave the other party's rudeness. On the surface, everyone seemed to be in harmony again. But what about in private? Uncle Dragon and the others naturally wouldn't tolerate these clowns. However, these clowns had too low a status, and they weren't worth their time. Hence, they only ordered their subordinates to reveal what had happened in Demon City to their families and left it at that. After that, Demon City entered a temporary state of harmony. Why was it short? After the complaint incident, everyone was still afraid that Demon City would take revenge on them. Hence, they all carefully tucked their tails between their legs and behaved like obedient children. However, as time passed and Demon City didn't make any major moves, some people began to grow restless again. This was the day that Uncle Dragon and the others had been waiting for. Hence, they chose to turn a blind eye to the chaos caused by some people. As such, some people were even bolder. There were even people who had ideas about Bing Yao. Perhaps Bing Yao had been locked up by her father for too long, so when she sensed that someone had designs on her, she deliberately shook off her father. When she had nothing to do, she would lie alone on the stone table in the garden and bask in the sun. Little Qilin, look what Big Sister brought you. One day, just as Bing Yao was about to fall asleep, she suddenly heard a sweet female voice. The voice was so gentle that it could melt one's heart. Chapter 28:35, Count Me in 2, 3. However, Bing Yao didn't even bother to raise her head and remained motionless on the table. When the woman who spoke saw the other party's lazy appearance, her eyes lit up. How she wished she could hold this little Qilin in her arms. She was really too cute. The woman who was staring at Bing Yao looked like she was in her early 20s, but in reality, she was not young anymore. She was also an elder of a mid-tier family clan and could be considered a woman with status and status. As such, this woman was extremely proud. She even often compared herself to Leng Ruoxue and felt that she was not inferior to her. The only thing she was not as good as her was luck. After seeing Bing Yi, she didn't care about her clan's mission anymore. She only wanted to abduct Bing Yi. According to her plan, if she could obtain this little Qilin, it would be equivalent to obtaining the powerful backing of the Qilin clan. In that case, her clan would naturally be able to squeeze into the ranks of the 8 great divine regions without any effort. By then, what would Leng Ruoxue be? She would also definitely become the woman with the most status in the divine realm, apart from Wuhan. It could be said that her vision was extremely perfect. If she could succeed, perhaps her clan would really become a super clan in the divine realm as she had imagined. However, she, who had already been blinded by this beautiful pie, clearly only thought of the good side and did not think about what would happen if she failed. How could the Qilin race tolerate a human having designs on their young? However, the woman was smart enough not to use force. Otherwise, she would have been dead. In the distance, Ice Spirit watched helplessly as a certain woman took out a few fruits to please his son. However, he could only protect her from a distance because his son had said that he would personally teach a lesson to those who dared to have designs on him. If he couldn't beat them, he would look for his father. Ice Spirit had no choice but to agree. However, he was worried and would not let his son deal with everything by himself. After all, humans were cunning. If something happened to his son, where would he find the medicine for regret? Uncle Long, who was accompanying her, saw that Bingpo was worried but didn't dare to come forward. He sighed in his heart. What a pitiful parent. Senior, don't worry. We're very safe here, no beastie can be kidnapped. Uncle Long consoled. With Green Vessel and Azure monitoring Demon City, it would be difficult for outsiders to do anything. Unfortunately, those people were not aware of this situation, so they all thought that no one knew about their little tricks. Every time they thought of this, Uncle Long and the others found it ridiculous. When will these people get lost? Ice Soul didn't feel happy after hearing Uncle Long's words. Instead, he questioned him angrily. Fuck. With these people around, her son would no longer be close to her. It was undeniable that the great former clan leader of Ice Soul was burning with jealousy. Ah. The investigation was not over yet. After the review is over, it will be their test. Uncle Long's heart trembled, but he told the truth. Your work efficiency is really low. Ice Spirit scolded angrily. Uncle Long was speechless. After a long time, he explained in a low voice, Senior, our Demon City has a limited number of people. Originally, Green Vessel could read minds, and because Green was too strong, those people's little thoughts could not be hidden from it. If these two fellows were willing to help, the evaluation would not be a matter of more than a few minutes. However, these two masters would not do such a small thing. As such, they could only do it themselves. This way, the evaluation speed naturally slowed down. Ice Soul fell silent after hearing Uncle Long's words. Uncle Long also thought that Ice Spirit understood their huge workload, so he was slightly relieved. AI. As long as this ancestor didn't make a fuss, it was fine. But not long after, Uncle Dragon met the Cheelans of the Cheelan race. He realized that Ice Soul disliked their low work efficiency. Otherwise, she wouldn't have sent more than half of the Cheelans here. The Kirin leading the team was Huiyu. As soon as they arrived at Demon City, Huiyu and the other Cheelans immediately started working. Uncle Long was speechless when he saw the Cheelans' true forms. What are these guys planning to do? When Uncle Long asked this question, Huiyu looked down on him. Huiyu said contemptuously, investigate them, of course. Your methods aren't good, you're too gentle. Watch us. After Huiyu finished speaking, he was the first to capture the two humans who were already trembling with fear and interrogate them. This scene made the mouths of Uncle Long and the others twitch. This method was indeed too simple and crude. Thanks Uncle Long and the others were completely speechless, while the people being interrogated were all like mistreated wives. Their eyes were full of tears, and their small bodies were shivering in the cold wind. Those who were more timid passed out before Huiyu and the other Cheelans could interrogate them. Xiaolong, will this work? Seeing this, Mu Li couldn't help but ask worriedly. They wanted to investigate the 8 generations of these people's ancestors. He was not interrogating them like prisoners. More importantly, the interrogator was a Cheelan, which put a lot of pressure on everyone. Hearing the name Xiaolong, Uncle Long's mouth twitched again. In fact, in the face of Mu Li's question, he wanted to say, please don't call me Xiaolong, okay? However, thinking of Mu Li's unrepentant attitude, Uncle Long gave up correcting him and said helplessly, even if it doesn't work, it has to work. Let's just see how many people can hold on. In fact, at this moment, Uncle Dragon suddenly felt pity for these people. Although these families had all sorts of reasons for moving into Demon City, most of them were harmless to Demon City. Now, Demon City was probably going to leave a shadow in their hearts. It had to be said that Uncle Long was right. The families that had signed up didn't expect to see the Kirin in Demon City. The Kirin had always been low-key, reclusive, and mysterious. Now that the Kirin had personally investigated the matter, some of them couldn't take it anymore and confessed. They even revealed the purpose of their family's visit. In this way, it didn't take long for more than half of the families to sign up. Uncle Long and the others also saved a lot of trouble. Meanwhile, the family's representatives, who had various motives and confessed under the Chelan's threats and promises, felt aggrieved. Fortunately, Demon City didn't make things difficult for them and simply invited them down the mountain to settle the matter. But what if he returned to the clan? Everyone was not sure if they would be blamed when they returned to their families. After all, their mission was considered a failure. As for the clan elder who had always wanted to take advantage of Bing Yao, he was forced to stay under Bing Yao's strong request. Knowing that it was at the request of the little Kylan that the Demon City did not drive her out, the female elder's mind became active again. She even felt that the little Kylan should have a good impression of her. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been the only one left among so many people. However, not long after, she was completely tragically defeated. As for those who were not sent away, after knowing that the Chelan clan would intervene in their test, they were not very calm. There were even families who gave up and took the initiative to withdraw from the next test. As a result, the families that had really stayed were already less than 1/3 of the total registered families. However, Uncle Long and the others didn't mind, because their principle was to seek quality and not quantity. As for the remaining 40+ families, Uncle Dragon and the others weren't sure how many of them would qualify to live in Demon City and become a part of it. After all, the final request would decide whether they would stay or leave. This was also a two-way choice for them to make. After giving the 50 families a few days to rest, Uncle Long gathered them again. In the living room, Uncle Long looked at the 40 or so family representatives who were extremely reserved and comforted them with a smile. "Don't be nervous, there's only one last test left." Hearing that it was the last one, the family representatives finally heaved a sigh of relief. However, they couldn't help but feel nervous again. Since it was the last test, it would not be easy, right? In an instant, all the family representatives immediately sat up straight, not daring to be careless in the slightest. Seeing them like this, Uncle Long smiled and said, "Calm down. The final test only requires you to answer questions." Answer questions? What kind of test was this? All the family representatives were stunned. The previous interrogation had already asked them a lot of questions about their respective families. Why did they have to answer questions now? Originally, they had thought that they would need to compete with the remaining families to determine who was better. Who knew that he would answer another question? Although the crowd was puzzled, they all calmed down in an instant. This was because they believed that they had already answered most of the questions that needed to be answered. There was really nothing else to ask. Uncle Long laughed to himself when he saw how many families relaxed after knowing that the final test was to answer questions. How could the problem they had raised be so simple? However, it was also good that these guys were not so nervous, in case it affected their condition. After that, Uncle Long had the families draw lots to decide the order in which they would answer the questions. Then, he ordered everyone to enter a dark room. In the room, other than Huiyu, Tsang was also the examiner. Of course, Huiyu was the main examiner, while Tsang's task was to determine the authenticity of these people's answers. Originally, it didn't want to do such a small thing, but Uncle Long had used Nyo to persuade it. So, in order to find some loyal residents for Nyo, it had to agree. As the test began, the people being tested had to answer the fire use questions in turn. The time to answer was only 3 seconds, so there was almost no time to think and they had to make a choice by instinct. In the beginning, the person who answered the question was quite confident, but as the question went deeper, the subject gradually broke out in a cold sweat. Especially when he heard the person in the dark ask, "When your family and Demon City's interests clash, what will your family do?" When such questions were asked, the people being tested felt a deep pain in their balls. Chapter 28-36, We didn't agree to this, did we? 1. How should he choose? Was there a need to ask? It must be like his family. The family representative who was asked this question couldn't help but think to himself. However, he wasn't stupid. He knew that the other party wouldn't be happy with such an answer, so he thought he was smart and replied, "Of course, we'll prioritize Demon City's interests." He's lying. As soon as the representative of a certain family finished speaking, Zhang's cold voice rang out in the dark room. As soon as Huiyu heard this, his temper got worse and worse, and he directly punched a certain unlucky person without thinking. Because the fire you had used quite a bit of strength, a certain unlucky fellow was directly beaten unconscious and lost the chance to continue answering the next question. He was then dragged out by his thigh by a qilin. The people waiting in the living room couldn't help but tremble when they saw the person being dragged out. This was because the other party's current appearance was somewhat miserable. Although his clothes were still considered neat, his face was swollen like a pig's head, and it was almost impossible to see his original appearance. That was really tragic. Wasn't it just answering a question? Why did he become like this? Everyone was frightened and confused. In addition, because this person was the first person to enter the room to answer the question, no one could judge whether he would end up like this when he answered a question. With the previous experience, everyone became nervous. Seeing this, Uncle Long smiled and comforted him. "Everyone, don't be nervous. He only answered the wrong question, so our examiner beat him up in a fit of anger. So, as long as you answer seriously, you won't be beaten up." Fuck. Did he have to get beaten up for answering the wrong question? What kind of examiner was this? How could he be so violent? And Uncle Long was acting like it was a matter of course. Couldn't he do something about it? Although everyone was thinking this, no one dared to say it in front of Uncle Long. Not only that, but they also simultaneously thought that they had to be more careful when answering the questions later. They had to make sure that they didn't answer wrong, or they would be beaten up later. However, reality was often different from one's ideal. When they actually entered the room and started to answer the questions, they suddenly realized that it was really too difficult to answer the questions correctly. After the unlucky man, the few people who entered the room were all beaten up by Huiyu without exception. The reason was simple: they lied. Your sister. Why couldn't anyone honestly express their thoughts? As the main invigilator, Huiyu was so angry that he wanted to kill those people directly when he saw that the candidates in front of him only knew how to say good things and didn't mean what they said. Therefore, he naturally didn't hold back when he attacked. Anyway, Uncle Long had told him that as long as he didn't die, he could do whatever he wanted to him. However, he did as he pleased. Looking at the candidates being dragged out one by one, Uncle Long's face was filled with black lines. He couldn't help but think to himself, "Isn't Huiyu a little too honest?" Uncle Long had to admit that he had said that he would let him do whatever he wanted, so the other party had really beaten him to death. This was really too much. Why didn't he leave a few alive to let him have a taste of his own medicine? Uncle Long was very angry, and the consequences were serious. When the rest of the people saw Uncle Long's gaze on them, and how the previous few people had all walked in and out, they were so scared that they wished they could just faint and avoid this. But that was obviously impossible. Not only was it impossible, but Uncle Long also warned him, "I told you to answer seriously, why didn't you listen?" AI. Our head examiner is very violent, so don't make him unhappy. Otherwise, I won't be able to save you. Thanks. Uncle Long's warning made the remaining 30 or so family representatives even more nervous. Some of the more timid ones even asked carefully, Uncle Long, is it too late for our clan to back out of this?" Fuck. How was this an answer to a question? This was clearly asking for his life. Although they had all been interrogated by the qilin, at least the qilin had been somewhat gentle at that time and had not directly attacked them. He had only questioned their ancestors for 8 generations. But now, they did not know what had happened to the other party. Why were they all beaten to the point of dying? Some of the representatives who couldn't figure it out wanted to give up. "I can't go on like this, or I don't know if he'll still be alive." However, when Uncle Long heard some of the representatives' questions, he raised his eyebrows and said with a little displeasure, "Forfeit? Do you think that Demon City's people are easy to bully?" He actually wanted to give up at a time like this? Let me tell you, no way. If you give up now, we won't even let your family off, let alone your lives. A threat. This was definitely a threat. After hearing Uncle Long's words, the families who wanted to give up were filled with grief and indignation. How could he do this? Are there any human rights left? As they thought about this, the few families who wanted to back out still said carefully, We won't forfeit, we're just joking. Hee hee. Why did he give up? It wasn't easy to get to this stage. You're not giving up? Uncle Long blinked and asked. No, I won tea. The family representatives replied in unison. It was too terrifying. Not only would they have to give up their lives here, but even their families would suffer. Under such a threat, those who dared to give up were no ordinary people. So you're playing with me? Is this fun? Uncle Long didn't seem to be happy when he heard that the other party wasn't giving up. Instead, he asked angrily. This time, the few families who wanted to give up were even more at a loss. However, Uncle Long didn't give them a chance to turn over a new leaf and allowed them to enter the room together. After entering the room, everyone was still in a state of shock. Then, they heard a voice in the darkness. Why did so many of them come in together this time? Uncle Long, did you make a mistake? Facing Huiyu's doubt, they did not know how to say it. More importantly, this voice sounded familiar. But they couldn't remember. After a moment of worry, everyone forced themselves to calm down and acted as if they were ready to answer any questions. However, why didn't Huiyu start asking questions immediately? Oh. What was this called? It would cause absolute mental pressure on the other party. He would first let them feel the fear in the darkness, then, he would take them by surprise. Huiyu thought so. Then, he secretly observed the other party's expression with a smirk. For a moment, the room was silent. Other than the nervous heartbeats of a few candidates, there was only the sound of the wind blowing through the window. The more sinister the atmosphere was, the more terrifying it felt. However, they didn't dare to urge the other party to start, so they could only silently endure everything. But at this time, the other party had already left a perverted impression in their hearts. Chapter 28:37, We didn't agree to this, did we? 2. They said you're a pervert. Suddenly, in the silent darkness, a voice that sounded like a smile yet not a smile rang out, causing the expressions of everyone in the room to change drastically. What was this? Just as they were thinking this, they heard a certain examiner, who they thought was perverted, angrily say, Fuck. Whoever thinks I'm a pervert, stand out. I'd like to see how bold you are to talk about your grandpa like this. No one dared to step forward, and no one wanted to. This was really too much of a pain in the ass. Could he not be so mischievous? But obviously, this was absolutely impossible. Because in the next second, they heard the strange voice speak again, they're all thinking about it in their hearts. Ow! The fire, you roared angrily. Then, a few loud bangs came from the darkness, followed by a few human screams. Then, everything returned to silence. You haven't answered my question. Sung, who was in the dark, laughed evilly as he looked at Fire Jade. Ah! They got 0 points. The embarrassed Huiyu said with some annoyance. He would never admit that he was a little impulsive, because those humans were too annoying. If he let it go, it would sully the Qilin clan's reputation. Alright. But you have to be clear that none of them have passed the test. Azure reminded. I know. However, Uncle Long had said that he only wanted the most loyal ones. But those from before are clearly not. Huiyu quibbled for himself. When Sung heard this, he didn't expose his guilty conscience and just sighed. AI. It's too hard to find a loyal subordinate. Yup. Uncle Long and the others are too demanding. Fire, you also echoed. Higher by what? Do you think it's that easy to suck up to Demon City? Hearing this, Azure said angrily. Ah. Fire, you was very depressed. He had just echoed the other party's words to please him, but how did he get hated again? This ancestor was difficult to serve. Huiyu was in tears. Can't we just work together happily? However, Azure didn't care about the other party's resentful thoughts. He directly raised his small claws and ordered, "Tell the people behind to quickly come in." "You bastard! My time is very precious. I'll go and inform them." Upon hearing this, Huiyu didn't dare to delay and immediately sent a message to Uncle Long. Uncle Long, who had received the voice transmission from the Fire Yu, was puzzled at first. How long had it been since they had entered? Why had they finished asking so quickly? Then, he saw the few people who went in vertically and came out horizontally. He instantly understood. Another violent attack. Uncle Long couldn't help but sigh. It seemed that he couldn't count on the Fire Yu to be gentle anymore. When he saw the family representatives present, and those who came out lying down, their faces turned even paler. He quickly comforted them, "Everyone, calm down. They must have done something wrong. Otherwise, they wouldn't be treated like this. What wrong have you done that you need to do this?" The people who were still safe and sound felt that the simple questions they had thought were even more terrifying than the previous interrogation of their ancestors. Although they hadn't entered yet, they were already feeling the burden. Uncle Long's words of comfort could no longer ease the tension in their hearts. When the next person was called, a certain family representative even took a long time to realize that he was the next person. After he realized it, his whole body was a little stiff as he walked into the room as if he was rushing to the execution ground. Thanks. Uncle Long silently gave his blessings as he watched him leave. "I wish you good luck, little guy." After that, he turned to the others and said kindly, "Believe me, as long as you answer my questions seriously, nothing will happen. Of course, if you take the initiative to anger the examiner, then I can't help you." It had to be said that Uncle Long's kind reminder was quite useful. The families that went in later were obviously treated better than the previous ones because they all came out on their own. However, the moment they came out, all the representatives were pale and their clothes were drenched in sweat. Since they had already come out, Uncle Long would definitely arrange for someone to send them back to their rooms to rest. At this time, someone made an excuse that he wanted to go to the toilet. After saying goodbye to Uncle Long, he left. However, the people who left did not go to the outhouse at all. Instead, they sneaked into the residence of the family representatives and tried to find out the contents of the test. After asking one family after another, the representatives of the families who thought they were so smart that no one knew about it were deeply depressed. This was because everyone had told him different things. How was he supposed to prepare for this? When he returned to the living room, the family representative returned to his seat with a guilty look. Uncle Long only smiled at him without saying a word, which made him nervous. When it was his turn to enter the room to answer the question, due to his guilty conscience, he was identified as lying on the first question and was disqualified. Of course, he was also dragged out. After seeing what had happened to a certain someone, Uncle Long looked at the rest of the people and sneered. "Did you see that? This was the result of being self-righteous and acting smart. Don't learn from him. In our demon city, nothing you do can be hidden from us." With a certain someone's example, the people who followed became more and more cautious. And when all the tests were over, the results were naturally disappointing. Out of nearly 50 families, only 10 or so barely passed. This result disappointed Uncle Long and the others. But even though he was disappointed, he still had to do the last step. After giving them a few more days to rest, Uncle Long gathered the dozen families in the living room again. This time, the important moment that would decide their fate was finally coming. When the representatives of the dozen or so families who had been summoned saw the several reverent gods sitting in the living room, they immediately tensed up. What was he doing? Was there a test? Such a thought caused everyone to tremble in fear. Woo! Please don't come again. One had to know that the test of answering questions earlier had almost cost them half their lives. If they were to be tested again, they would completely collapse. Uncle Long comforted everyone when he saw their uneasy expressions. Don't be nervous. I just want to explain the rules for joining Demon City, and I want you to make your final decision. The first half of Uncle Long's sentence made everyone's hearts, which had been in their throats, relax a little, but the second half made them feel nervous again. Fuck. Why did he have to choose? Are you done? Faced with the repeated investigations, answers, and the current choices, the representatives present were obviously on the verge of a mental breakdown. However, Uncle Long didn't care about that and continued, "This choice is extremely important to both you and Demon City." Chapter 28:38, We didn't agree to this, did we? 3. Uncle Long, what is your choice? Just tell me directly. Someone couldn't wait and urged. All right. Then I'll say it. Uncle Long didn't get angry at being urged. Instead, he was still smiling. Then, he cleared his throat and said, although we have many rules in Demon City, the most important one is loyalty. He had to be absolutely loyal. If you want to join Demon City, you can't be half-hearted. Since you've joined Demon City's big family, you must do your best to protect Demon City's interests, and place Demon City's interests above your family's. Of course, the resources we can provide you are definitely beyond your imagination. However, I won't give you these resources for free. You'll have to put in a certain amount of effort to get them, do you understand what I mean? How could the representatives present not understand? Uncle Dragon's intentions were clear. Back when they had answered the question, they had already come into contact with him. However, they never thought that they would have to make another choice. And this choice would determine whether Demon City would accept them or not. At that time, they had the chance to pass the test because they had told the truth. In this truth, someone naturally mentioned that the interests of the family were more important than anything else. The families that replied in this way were obviously not within the scope of Uncle Long and the others' consideration. However, because of their honesty, Uncle Long and the others still gave them an equal opportunity. After hearing Uncle Long's words, the representative who had said that the family's interests were more important than anything else knew that his family had no chance at all. Therefore, he immediately questioned, I can understand that Demon City needs our loyalty, but why won't you give us your resources for free if we're loyal to you? Uncle Long looked at the family representative, who was obviously looking for trouble, and said with a cold smile, why should I give it to you for free? This is the first time I've heard that the major clans are supporting their vassal clans for free. It is. Without any labor, wasn't it a fool's dream to get protection and resources with just a word of loyalty? Not to mention you families with no blood relations, even if you're a branch of the Ning family, you wouldn't dare to say that you're getting resources for free. Master Ning, who was sitting on the side, sneered when he heard this, and instantly blacklisted the family of this representative. You bastard! This person was clearly here to find trouble. Who didn't know that the relationship between the big families and the affiliated families was that of being affiliated and being affiliated? The subsidiary clans relied on the enormous resources and powerful strength of the subsidiary clans to receive the protection of the other party in the divinity. The affiliated family would gain the loyalty of the other party, and in this relationship, the status of the affiliated family was completely equivalent to that of the servant. Since they were the servant, how could they ask the master to support them for no reason? Why? There was absolutely no such saying in the immortal realm. Didn't you invite us to garrison in Demon City? After thinking for a long time, the family representative finally said. You were invited to enter. Are you daydreaming? We hinted in the announcement that we are recruiting affiliated families, don't you know what it means to be affiliated families? Uncle Long said with a faint smile. This time, that person could no longer quibble. With Uncle Long and Master Ning's agreement, no one dared to question anything. Finally, Uncle Dragon told them that if they wanted to become a subsidiary family of Demon City, they would need to sign a loyalty contract. Hearing this, the expressions of the representatives present changed. Loyalty and signing a loyalty contract were two completely different things. After all, as long as one had a mouth, one would be able to speak of loyalty. However, after signing the loyalty contract, if one were to betray, the punishment would definitely be unbearable. None of the people present had thought that they would need to sign a loyalty contract. This way, it was not something that the family representatives could decide. After someone expressed their thoughts to Uncle Dragon and the others, they were very understanding and gave them a month's time to return and discuss with their families. After thinking it through, they would become a member of Demon City. Naturally, they would be protected by Demon City. After sending off the last dozen or so families, Uncle Long and the others had some free time. A few days later. In the garden, Master Ning was yawning in boredom. When he saw Uncle Long coming over, he immediately pulled Uncle Long over to make a bet with him. Seeing this, Uncle Long shouted helplessly, "If you're really that bored, you can go back to the Ning family and manage your grandchildren. Why are you bothering me?" Uncle Long was so frustrated. It had been half a month, but there was no news from any of the families. Was this the sign of recruitment failure? He was quite worried, but at the same time, he felt angry for the short-sightedness of those families. If they failed, they failed. Sooner or later, they would regret it. Uncle Long secretly complained to himself. Master Ning, who was being yelled at, was thick-skinned and obviously didn't mind that Uncle Long was angry. He even added fuel to the fire. "Old Dragon, let's make a bet and see how many families will be smart enough to make the right choice, okay? The one who loses has to agree to one condition. How about it?" "Thanks, not much. Are you really that free? If you're bored, go pull out the grass." Uncle Long couldn't take it anymore and roared. Obviously, he was already very annoyed, but this old man still wanted to bet with him. "Bet your sister. What's there to bet on?" Uncle Long was very angry, and he glared at Master Ning with his fiery eyes. But Master Ning didn't care at all and said with a smile, "Old Dragon, I know you've been very angry recently. Calm down. Even if those small families are unwilling, so what? That's because they have no foresight, and it has nothing to do with us. The entire firmament knows about the recruitment plan this time. Don't you feel embarrassed if you don't recruit even one in the end?" Uncle Long couldn't help but ask. He didn't believe that the Ning family's old boy's attitude was so good that he didn't care at all. Brother Dongfang Yu was also quite troubled recently. More importantly, this would affect Demon City's future development. Hence, it was necessary to recruit new blood. Meanwhile, Uncle Dragon, who had long since treated Demon City as his home, naturally hoped that Demon City would one day replace the Misty Castle. At the same time, he wanted to give Shui-Er, who was in seclusion, a surprise. He hoped that by the time Shui-Er came out of her seclusion, Demon City would already be in a relatively large scale. However, before this idea could be realized, it seemed to be on the verge of defeat. How could he not be anxious? He wasn't as heartless as Master Ning. What's there to be embarrassed about? It's such a good opportunity, yet those small families don't know how to grasp it properly. They'll regret it in the future. Master Ning said calmly. All right. You're right, but I'm still depressed. Why didn't any family know how to grasp such a good opportunity? You must know that there might not be such an opportunity in the future, but even if you recruit people, I'm afraid it won't be as simple as this time. Uncle Long sighed with hidden bitterness. Old Dragon, calm down. Don't bother with those annoying things, let's make a bet. Master Ning still didn't forget to make a bet with Uncle Long. Uncle Long was truly helpless. This old man was really... Let's bet then, who's afraid of who? Then, Uncle Long made up his mind and said, that's more like it. Come, let's bet on how many families will have good eyes. Master Ning said happily when he saw that Uncle Long had compromised. 5. There are at least 5. Uncle Long said immediately. I said there are 3. Master Ning also said. This was the conclusion he had made after analyzing and understanding those families in detail. So little. Uncle Long frowned and looked at Master Ning with dissatisfaction. This old man was really too detestable. This was clearly boosting other people's morale and diminishing their own prestige. Why did he not believe in the attraction of Demon City's signboard? Quite a few. Master Ning said confidently. Not long after, Dongfang Yu and the others who had heard about the bet also requested to join in. The bet between Uncle Long and Master Ning had become an important event for the board's supreme gods in Demon City. Even Hui Yu and the other Qilin had come to join in the fun. Seeing the Yu fire, Uncle Long naturally remembered the good things this guy had done when he was the head examiner. He said angrily, "What are you still doing here? Go back to your Qilin clan." Hee hee. I'm sorry, but I'm afraid I'll have to appear in Demon City more often in the future. I've already discussed with the ancestor to set up a branch of the Qilin race in Demon City. The ancestor has agreed to it, and I've also chosen the location. We'll be starting work soon. Hui Yu said with a proud smile. When Uncle Long heard this, his face darkened immediately. Fuck. Why didn't they know anything about this? Did these Qilins really think that Demon City was their backyard? He wanted to set up a branch in Demon City, yet he didn't even acknowledge the master. Tell me only after you've decided. Who was that? Did they agree? Uncle Long's expression was extremely unsightly. He glared at Hui Yu and said, "We didn't agree to this, did we? The ancestor has agreed. If you have any different ideas, feel free to bring them up. I'm just an errand boy doing hard work. I don't care about the affairs between you high-level people." Hui Yu pushed the responsibility to his ancestor. Your sister. Hearing Hui Yu's words, Uncle Long really wanted to scold Qilin. What would he say if he went to find the ice spirit? Did he object? Demon City doesn't welcome Qilin's presence. Chapter 2839, Boss, I knew you wouldn't die. 1. Not welcome, my ass. There must be something wrong with his head to object to the Qilin race moving in. Uncle Long couldn't help but mutter to himself. In fact, he had thought about this for a long time. He wanted Shui to tell Ice Soul, but Shui rejected him. In Shui words, even though we have done the Qilin race a favor, we can't force them to repay us. Otherwise, the Qilin race would definitely be unwilling. If they had any other thoughts, it would affect the relationship between the two parties. He also said that if they wanted to, they would bring it up themselves. Now, just as Shui had said, he wanted to. However, he didn't bring it up. Instead, he made his own decision and even thought of a place to stay. This was a little. At the thought of this, Uncle Long's face darkened and he said to Hui Yu in a slightly displeased tone, "If the Qilin race wants to enter Demon City, we will definitely welcome you. However, shouldn't you inform us, the masters, as well? Or do you want to act first and report later? Are you planning to tell us the day we find out that you've broken ground?" Ah. I thought you guys already knew. Hui Yu couldn't help but feel a little embarrassed. I know nothing. Did any of you Qilin greet us? Long Shuhua roared. Calm down. Calm down. Calm down, I didn't think this through, please forgive me. Please forgive me. Seeing that Uncle Long seemed to be really angry, Hui Yu hurriedly put in a good word. Humph. Since you've already decided, we welcome your Qilin clan to come and live here. Let's forget about this matter. Now, can you please tell me which place you have chosen to make the Qilin clan's base? Uncle Long looked at Fire Guangdong and said, not wanting to argue with him. Hee hee. Wait, I'm going to get the map. Hui Yu gave a perverted smile and took out a map. That map was the topographic map of Demon City. After opening it, the Fire Yu was about to point it out to Uncle Long, but Uncle Long stopped her and said, Wait, tell me, where did you get this map? Why does this map look so familiar? Master Ning said after looking at the map. Hee hee. This map is the one you placed in the council chamber. Seeing that he couldn't hide it anymore, Hui Yu had to tell the truth. Hearing this, everyone present was silent for 3 minutes. You bastard. Not using the council hall for too long was very harmful. They didn't even know that something had gone missing. If the other party hadn't taken the initiative to expose themselves today, they would probably not even be able to find the thief's shadow when they realized that something had been stolen. Dong Fangyu opened his mouth and wanted to express his opinion, but he found himself speechless. What should he say? Blame the other party. From the looks of it, the other party obviously didn't mind. However, it didn't seem right if he didn't criticize them. What if everyone learned from him in the future? Wouldn't Demon City be in chaos? Sensing the seriousness of the matter, Dong Fangyu frowned deeply. You're going a little too far like this. After thinking for a while, Dong Fangyu finally squeezed out a sentence that didn't hurt the other party. His words were instantly despised by everyone except Huiyu. Uncle Long was so angry that he shouted, "Guards! Arrest this thief!" Thanks, don't be like this. I'm not a thief. Seeing the others in a daze, Fire Guangdong quickly explained for himself. If you're not, then who is? They've even stolen into our meeting hall. Uncle Long shouted with a red face. I didn't steal it, I just borrowed it. The Fire you continued to explain. Borrow? Damn it, did you return it after you used it? Uncle Long was even angrier when he heard this. If they didn't find out that Huiyu had stolen their map, this matter might have been exposed later. Didn't I forget? Huiyu said, a little embarrassed. Only a ghost would believe your words. Men! Arrest this thief. Uncle Dragon was infuriated. However, after shouting for a long time, he suddenly recalled that Demon City's residents had all gone into seclusion. Other than the old fellows present, there was no one else who was idle. Some beasts, catch this thief for me, he immediately changed his words. Unfortunately, even after he shouted for a long time, not a single beast came to capture him. Instantly, Uncle Long was enraged and decided to do it himself. Master Ning and the others felt very embarrassed. Currently, Demon City had neither humans nor beasts. No wonder they didn't even know that they had lost something. Seeing that Uncle Long was really going to catch him, Huiyu panicked and hid everywhere, shouting, Old whale, don't be like this. I've really forgotten. Soul egg. I don't care about that, stealing should be punished. Uncle Long shouted and chased after him. For a moment, Uncle Long chased the Fire you all over the yard. Master Ning and the others shook their heads and sighed. What was going on? Are you playing hide and seek? At this moment, a curious voice was heard. Then, a small ice phoenix appeared in the garden. The ice phoenix still appeared with a blue crown on its head. Seeing this pair of little beasts, Master Ning and the others' mouths twitched again. He didn't know when it started, but Senior Azure liked to lie on the head of the ice phoenix. I want to play too. Seeing that no one answered him, Bing Yao continued to speak. Then, he ran into the field and joined the ranks of the people chasing after the Fire you. When Huiyu saw this, he wanted to cry but had no tears. Little prince, we're from the same country. How can you help this old whale chase me? Huiyu, who was being chased and blocked by Uncle Long and Bing Jie, wanted to kneel down in front of Bing Jie. He had never seen a Qilin who was so ungrateful. This really made him sad. Aren't we playing hide and seek? I want to be on the same side as Uncle Long, so I naturally have to chase you. Bing Yao said matter-of-factly. Hearing this, Uncle Long gave Bing Yao a look of admiration. He thought to himself, I didn't dote on this little guy for nothing. Then, Uncle Long said to Bing Yao, it's right to chase after him. He's a thief who stole things from our house. Catch him and arrest him. What? You dare to steal from my house? He really didn't want to live anymore. This kind of thief must be caught and tortured. When Bing Yao heard this, he was furious. When Azure heard this, he lazily opened his eyes and asked, what did he steal from our house? All we know is a map. We still need to investigate the rest. Uncle Long was very happy to see the reaction of the two jerks who had a common enemy, so he told them the truth. I only took this map. Huiyu quickly explained when he heard that Uncle Long suspected that he had taken something else. Do you think we will believe you? Uncle Long raised his eyebrows and made up his mind to find trouble with the fire you. Otherwise, where could he vent his anger? More importantly, this was the result of Hui Yu's own actions. Although he had only stolen a map, it was a map today. Who knew what would happen tomorrow? Therefore, Uncle Long felt that it was necessary for him to kill 100 people. To prevent others from learning from him. Chapter 2840 Boss, I knew you wouldn't die. 2. Yes, we won't believe you. Bing Yao was very happy to replenish. Hui Yu burst into tears upon hearing this. He couldn't help but look up at the sky and sigh. Little prince, where are you going to put your elbow? He could accept that Uncle Long was looking for trouble, but how could Bing Yao join in the fun? He felt that his heart had already shattered into pieces. Sob. He would never love again. Just as Hui Yu was lost in his thoughts, Uncle Long rushed forward and grabbed his arm, restraining him. Snatching the map from Hui Yu's hand, Uncle Long said fiercely, "I'll deal with you for the thief later. Now, tell me, where did your Qilin clan choose to live?" Although Uncle Long had caught them, he didn't forget what he was here for. Upon hearing that, Hui Yu thought that Uncle Long had already let him off the hook for taking the map. He then relaxed and pointed at the map. When he finished pointing, he looked at Uncle Long and was surprised to find that Uncle Long's face had turned black. At this time, the curious Master Ning and the others also took a few steps forward. Hui Yu saw this and pointed out to them again. After knowing the location of the Qilin clan's base, everyone's expression turned a little strange. They stared at fire lit without blinking. They all wanted to see what the structure of the fire use brain was. Azure was more direct and coldly laughed. Why doesn't your Qilin clan make this a base as well? After hearing Tsang's words, Hui Yu was stunned for a moment before he said weakly, That won't do. Isn't this your base camp? Humph. The entire demon city is our main base, but didn't you take away a third of it? Azure's body emitted a cold aura as he continued to sneer. At this moment, Hui Yu finally understood that there was a problem with the encampment that he had assigned. No wonder these people's faces suddenly changed. But. After thinking for a long time, Hui Yu carefully said, the bases that I've chosen are all ownerless. Since they're ownerless, it's no big deal for our Qilin clan to use them, right? As you all know, our Qilin clan's main body is too large, and it's simply not enough when it's small. More importantly, it's close to your main residence, so it's more convenient for us to visit our ancestor, right? Who made the rule that ownerless things have to be used by your Qilin clan? Don't you know that Demon City is recruiting subsidiary clans? My head examiner. Azure said with a smile that was not a smile. Well. No family has joined us yet. Hui Yu said in a low voice. Hearing him mention that, Uncle Long's face turned even uglier. Then, everyone heard Uncle Long roar, but I can't give it all to you. You're so close to our ancestor, but you've taken up a third of Demon City's space. To tell you the truth, these places were originally left for our affiliated families. Or does the Qilin race have plans to acknowledge their master and pledge their loyalty? Yup. If you acknowledge Shuar as your master, I can make the decision to give you the place you like. Azure said indifferently. How is this possible? The Qilin race would never acknowledge anyone as their master. One had to know that even Master Yu didn't force them to recognize him as their master. With me here, they don't need to recognize me as their master. Suddenly, a confident voice rang out in everyone's ears. Then, they saw a handsome man in white appear before them. The one who spoke wasn't the white-robed man, but a palm-sized furry little beast that glowed with a dark golden luster. Thanks. Master Ning looked at the little beast in front of him carefully, then looked at the man in white and asked, Senior Dream Dust, this little beast. This little beastie looks so familiar. However, the little beast had a lot of tails, so no one dared to recognize it. Humph. It's the little mouse by that idiot. Yes sighed. Before Huan Chen could reply, Azure said with a disdainful expression. A little mouse? Hearing this, Master Ning and the others were speechless. They really didn't know what kind of deep hatred Senior Tsang had for this little beast. Why did he call it a little mouse? Which part of this little guy looked like a mouse? On the contrary, they were somewhat similar to Azure. However, they naturally didn't dare to say such words. Everyone was smart enough to remain silent. The little beast on Huan Chen's shoulder didn't dare to make a sound and only glared at Azure. Seeing this, Xing couldn't help but laugh proudly. Huan Chen felt helpless about this. However, artifact spirits also had levels. Tsang's level was the highest and he was the strongest. Therefore, he didn't dare to anger Tsang and could only be a peacemaker. Tsang, don't bully baby, okay? It has just recovered all its memories and strength. Humph. Even if this idiot had recovered his memory and strength, he was still an idiot. If you can't even protect your own master, what's the point of living? Tsang was obviously disgusted with the baby. I admit that I'm useless. I'm weak, but you're not weak. How could you have protected master? Bao Bao finally retorted. Mighty baby. Hearing this, Huan Chen couldn't help but give the baby a like. However, Azure didn't seem to mind. Master? That's your master, I don't recognize him. She had no obligation to protect him. Besides, if he didn't seek death himself, would that bitch Wu Yan have killed him? But you shouldn't just stand by and do nothing. The baby continued to criticize weakly. Didn't the laws of heaven and earth do nothing to save him? Do you want to ask him why? Azure smiled in disdain. Baby heard Tsang's words and could only cry in his heart. Sob. Sister, I was bullied. The people who were listening to Tsang and Bao Bao's conversation also thought of something at the same time, especially the Dongfang brothers, whose eyes were wet when they saw Bao Bao. Master Ning and Uncle Long could also tell that Baby and Tsang were acquaintances. Furthermore, he had a close relationship with Master Yu. However, they didn't know the details of the reasons. Only Hu Yu was confused. Seeing that Tsang and the little beast had stopped bickering, he asked stupidly, what does it have to do with you whether our clan recognizes a master or not? Bao Bao was silent. It seemed that it had not appeared for a long time, and the beasts had long forgotten about it. For a moment, it had a myriad of feelings in its heart, and it didn't know what to say. Tsang laughed out loud and pointed at Bao Bao, who told you to act mysterious and go missing. Look at you now. Your subordinates don't even remember who you are. Hu Yu was shocked. Subordinate? Was he talking about him? When did he become this little beast's subordinate? Why didn't he know about it? Fire Yu was shocked by Tsang's words. When the baby saw the Fire Yu's confused look, the depression in his heart deepened. All right. It admitted that it was acting mysterious. Back then, other than the 4 kings of the 4 great king divine beasts, there were not many beasts who had seen its true appearance. Moreover, it usually used the 4 great king divine beasts to directly manage the other beasts, and it did not show itself. But to go missing? It would never admit this. It didn't disappear on purpose. It was dead, alright? Chapter 2841, Boss, I knew you wouldn't die. 3. However, facing Tsang's slander, Bao Bao didn't know how to refute it. Because to the beast race, it really wasn't competent. Seeing that the baby didn't respond for a long time, Tsang, who was extremely bored, patted Hu Yu's shoulder and laughed evilly. Little Qilin, do you want to know who it is? Yes, yes. Hu Yu nodded his head like he was pounding garlic. Of course, he wanted to know. He wanted to know more about how he became this little beast's subordinate. He belonged to the ancestor. You know about the beast god, right? Azure asked indifferently. I know too well. Upon hearing this, Hu Yu immediately became excited. One must know that the beast god was the most powerful person in the beast race, and even their ancestors had to listen to him. Not to mention them. Among the beasts, even if you didn't know your own people, you must know the name of the beast god. This beast god did not refer to the powerful beasts who had cultivated successfully. The full name of the beast god should be the god of all beasts. The meaning of this name was self-evident. However, the beast god had always been mysterious in the immortal realm and rarely showed up in the beast clan. Therefore, Huiyu was very surprised. Why did this kitten mention the beast god? As everyone knew, even the beast gods were not spared from the catastrophe of the divine realm tens of thousands of years ago. This is the little mouse. After Huiyu nodded, Tsang pointed at Bao Bao and said. Huiyu was a little dumbfounded. His mouth was half open as he stood in the middle. Uncle Long was also a little dumbfounded. He had known that this little beast's identity was not simple, but he didn't expect it to be so frightening. As for Master Ning, he didn't know how to react. One had to know that he had even carried this little fellow before. The beast god. He had actually hugged a beast god before. That was an existence that he had to look up to. After a long while. After Uncle Long came back to his senses, he didn't know how to get along with the baby. In fact, he was not very familiar with Bao Bao. This was because not long after he met Shui and the others, this little fellow had been captured by Huan Chen to cultivate in seclusion. Now that he had come out of seclusion, why did he have such a terrifying identity? Was this still beastly? However, Uncle Long still bowed to the baby with great respect and said respectfully, "Greetings, beast god." Baby didn't know what to do with Uncle Long's respect. "Don't be like this, dear. Let's go back to how we were before, okay?" Having just recovered all of its memories and learned of its identity, the baby was already used to acting coquettishly in front of Leng Ruoxue and the others, and was used to living a life of being a weak little beast. Hence, it was not used to Uncle Long's respect. Let's just get along like we used to. You can call me baby. The baby said after a deep struggle. How can we do that? You're the beast god, and as a member of the beast clan, I have to respect you. Uncle Long was determined not to agree with Bao Bao's words. If there was no problem with the evildoer like before, then as the saying goes, the current official is better than the current official. No matter how famous the evildoer was, he couldn't control him. So even if the evildoer was the master of the dark world, he was not afraid. But this baby was different. He was his superior, so how could he not respect him? Now that Uncle Long knew the baby's identity, he naturally couldn't be too casual with it. At this time, Huiyu couldn't help but poke Uncle Long and asked in a low voice, "Do you really believe that this little beast is the legendary beast god?" I believe Senior Tsang's words." "Do you suspect that Senior Tsang is lying?" Uncle Long blinked his eyes and deliberately raised his voice. When Huiyu saw this, his face turned pale and he pulled on Uncle Long's sleeve, begging, "Uncle Long, don't be so loud." "Humph." Following Tsang's cold snort, Huiyu's face turned even paler. Bao Bao couldn't stand it and said to Tsang weakly, "Please don't bully Beastie. It's wrong to bully the weak. Long live the beast god." Bao Bao's unconfident words of justice made the fire swan fall towards it. Then, it looked at Bao Bao gratefully and said loudly, "Beast god, I admit that you are the beast god." The baby was speechless. It had always been one, so did it need this Qilin to admit it? Meanwhile, Uncle Long and the others kept their distance from Huiyu, who was obviously not in a normal state of mind. They had an expression that said, "I don't know him." When the Fireu realized that the situation was a little abnormal, Uncle Long and the others gave him a look as if he was crazy. Suddenly, the Fireu became depressed. He didn't know why he would say something so stupid. But would it be useful to take it back now? The answer was no. Tsang patted Huiyu's head in a good mood and looked at Bao Bao. "Don't tell me people always say that Beastie's intelligence is low. It's true after seeing it today." All the Beastie beasts present were caught in the crossfire. Especially Uncle Long, who was extremely depressed. He even felt that his entire person was unwell. Although he knew that Senior Tsang was talking about the Fireu, he was also a beastie. Sob, Uncle Long, who had been innocently implicated, felt even more resentful toward the Fireu. Thanks Bao Bao didn't comment on Tsang's judgment. Big sister wasn't here, so it didn't dare to argue with Tsang, otherwise it would be the one who would be unlucky. It couldn't beat this guy. Woo. The baby was silent, aggrieved, and his bright eyes peeked at Tsang from time to time. However, Tsang pretended not to see it and continued to pat Huiyu's head with admiration. Huiyu was the most worried. He even deeply felt that it was a wrong decision to build a branch in Demon City with his ancestor. There were too many people here that he couldn't afford to offend. Sob. He felt like he was being bullied all day long. At this moment, Fire Yu heard Tsang say to Uncle Long and the others, "Leave this thief to me. I'll teach him well." "Don't." Huiyu had burst into tears again. At this moment, he really hoped that Uncle Long would reject Tsang's words. He didn't want to fall into Tsang's hands. Unfortunately, Uncle Long would not let Huiyu have his way. Uncle Long ignored Huiyu's pleading eyes and said gratefully, "Then he'll have to trouble Senior Azure." "It's no trouble at all. I'm free anyway." After saying that, Azure deliberately turned to look at Bao Bao and said with a smirk, "Beast deity, you don't mind me teaching your subordinates, do you? If I had an opinion, would you listen?" Bao Bao pretended to be embarrassed and asked. "I won tea," Tsang replied directly. "Then why are you still asking me?" Bao Bao couldn't help but roll her eyes. "I'm just respecting you." Tsang laughed proudly, then patted Bing Yao's head and ordered, "Let's go back." When everyone heard these 4 words, the corners of their mouths couldn't help twitching. Senior Heatsong was treating the Ice Phoenix as a mount. Does Senior Ice Soul know about this? Everyone was quite curious. After saying that, Tsang used his chubby little claws to pick up Fire Yu's collar and dragged him away under everyone's gaze. Everyone looked at the huge figure that was gradually walking away. They wanted to know how the Fire Yu felt when it was carried away by such a small beast. "I really want to interview him." On the way, many beasts came to watch, which made Huiyu's face turn red. However, he was unable to resist and could only pray in his heart. "Old ancestor, come and save me." Sob. "We can't count on that beast god." After Huiyu was taken away by Tsang, Uncle Long and the others were confused for a moment. Then, they looked at each other in the garden. Not long after, Ice Spirit heard about this from the first elder of the Qilin clan and rushed over. When she saw Uncle Long and the others, Ice Soul said remorsefully, "I'm sorry. I didn't expect this to happen either. It's all my fault for not being strict. Can you let Huiyu out for my sake?" "Senior Ice Soul, Fire Yu clan's chief is not in our hands," Uncle Long said honestly. "Ah. Then who has it?" Ice Spirit was puzzled. He had clearly heard from the Great Elder that Fire Yu had taken a map of Demon City, which made Uncle Long and the others so angry that they wanted to capture Fire Yu and lock him up. Was that not the case? The Great Elder shouldn't have lied to him. The Qilin Great Elder didn't lie to him. However, the Grand Elder didn't know everything. The Grand Elder had no idea what had happened in the latter half. When he heard from the clansman that Uncle Long was going to capture the clan leader, he went to find the ancestor in a hurry. However, the ancestor was not there at that time. When the ancestor came back, the first elder who had been waiting in the Ice Soul courtyard told him what had happened, and the 2 of them came here anxiously. Now that she knew there was a way out, she immediately turned to the Great Elder behind her. The Great Elder looked at Uncle Long with a confused expression and said with a flattering smile, "Uncle Long, we know that it's wrong of us to steal your map, but it's not a big deal. Can you let the Patriarch go for the sake of our Qilin clan?" He obviously didn't believe Uncle Long's words. "Little soul, the little Qilin is in Azure's hands." After waiting for a long time and seeing that Ice Spirit didn't notice her baby, she replied before Uncle Long. "Little soul." The baby's voice instantly attracted the 2 Qilin's attention. The Great Elder was surprised. Who was Little Pa calling? Apart from his family's old ancestor, there didn't seem to be anyone present who had the word Pa in their names. Could it be that he was calling his own ancestor? Looking at the baby's petite body, the Qilin First Elder couldn't help but shake his head. That was impossible. This little beast couldn't possibly be an old man. Just as the great elder overturned his conclusion, Ice Spirit, who had been completely stunned by the words, little soul, suddenly came back to his senses. His eyes were filled with tears, and he held the baby's fluffy body tightly in his arms. He sobbed, "Boss. I knew you wouldn't die." "Boss?" These two words frightened First Elder to his core. His eyes were wide open, as if he had seen a ghost. He didn't hear wrong, did he? The old ancestor actually called this little beast boss. Chapter 2842, You Really Have the Guts to Ask for Anything. 1. The Chilean Great Elder felt like he was about to faint from fear. What kind of rhythm is this? He looked up and down, left and right, but he couldn't see that the little beast in front of him, who wasn't even the size of their palms, was the old ancestor's boss. However, he believed that the old ancestor would definitely not joke about this kind of thing. But this fact was simply too hard to accept. The first elder of the Chilean clan was a little confused. He looked at the little beast, who was crying in his ancestor's arms, with a face full of questions. Then, he turned to Uncle Long and asked him with his eyes, "What's going on?" However, Uncle Long pretended not to see it. "Aren't you curious?" "I won't tell you," Uncle Long thought with a smirk. Needless to say, Uncle Long was venting his anger on him again. Seeing that Uncle Long was ignoring him, the great elder of the Chilean family had to continue to look at Master Ning. He didn't know whether Master Ning had done it intentionally or unintentionally, but he actually turned his head at the same time as he looked at him. The first elder of the Chilean clan immediately became worried. This was really bullying the Chilean. They knew that his curiosity was like a kitten scratching at his heart, but no one answered his question. First Elder Chilean was furious. He glared at Uncle Long and Master Ning, but the two obviously didn't care and continued to ignore him. When Ice Soul was done with the baby, she turned to the great elder and said, "Boss, this little fellow is my clansman." "Oh." Bao Bao nodded and gave First Elder Chilean a kind smile. However, the Chilean Great Elder still felt as if a cat was scratching his heart. He couldn't help but wail in his heart. "Old ancestor, don't just introduce me. Introduce your boss." However, Ice Spirit obviously did not see through the Chilean Great Elder's inner thoughts. He did not even plan to introduce the baby's identity. After greeting the crowd, he took the baby away and even forgot about the fire you. Seeing this, the Chilean First Elder, who had been left behind, was completely depressed. "Woo! Old ancestor, how can you leave me behind?" He even left him in the middle of Uncle Long and the others, who were looking at him with unfriendly eyes. At this moment, the Chilean Great Elder, who was a little slow to react, had already sensed the unfriendly gazes from Uncle Long and the others. He shrank back a little and decided to slip away, not having the time to ask about the little beast's identity. However, as soon as this thought appeared in his mind, he had only taken a step forward when Uncle Long grabbed him by the collar and pulled him back. "Uncle Long, let go. Let me go. This is too ugly." The first elder of the Chilean clan struggled. "Yo! Now you know how ugly it is. Why didn't you think of how ugly it was when you stole our map?" Uncle Long continued to deal with the Chilean Great Elder. "Uncle Long, you don't need the map anyway. Why don't you lend it to us?" The first elder of the Chilean clan said with a fawning smile. "Is that borrowing? Taking without asking is stealing. Besides, if we don't use it, can you steal it in peace?" Uncle Long's anger rose again when he heard the Chilean Great Elder's words. The Chilean elder could only smile awkwardly. He really didn't think so much when he borrowed the map. "Now, let's talk about the problem of your base," Uncle Long continued. Thanks, they had been discussing this matter for a long time, but it was delayed by the appearance of the beast god baby. Now that Fire You had been taken away by Senior Azure and Ice Soul had taken Azure away, the only one in the Chilean clan who had the final say was this old fellow. This time, they couldn't let the Chilean Great Elder off no matter what. They had to get to the bottom of this today. Uncle Long's decision was unquestionable, even if you were a Qilin. Therefore, the first elder Qilin had to stay behind and be interrogated by the crowd. When he found out that the other party was not only angry because they had taken the map without asking, but also because the area of the encampment they wanted was too large, the Qilin Great Elder patiently explained, "As you all know, our Qilin's body is very large, and the area is too small to display it. So, you guys have to understand. Understand my ass. Demon City doesn't have that much space for you to waste." Long Shuhua roared. "How can you call this a waste? We've decided on this place after much consideration. If it wasn't for the fact that the area of your land of demons is limited, our encampment wouldn't have been so small." The Qilin Grand Elder was very honest. When Uncle Long and the others heard this, they were all furious. "You bastard! Although the words of the Great Elder of the Qilin family and fire you were similar, the Great Elder of the Qilin family was obviously better at drawing hatred." Uncle Long and the others obviously didn't expect that he would complain that the area of the residence allocated by his family was small. "Fuck. A third of it was gone and you still think it's small? How old do you want? Do you want me to give you the entire Demon City?" After taking a few deep breaths, Uncle Long suppressed the urge to beat the Qilin up and roared. "Ah! Would you be willing to give us the entire Demon City?" The first elder of the Qilin clan blinked his eyes and asked with uncertainty. "I'm willing. Do you want it?" Uncle Long, who had been holding it in, asked with a smile. "If you insist on giving it to us, we can only reluctantly accept it," the first elder of the Qilin clan said with an embarrassed expression. As soon as he finished speaking, he was punched in the face. Then, Uncle Long, who couldn't take it anymore, rushed forward and punched the Qilin Great Elder. Fists as heavy as boulders rained down on the Qilin Great Elder, knocking him silly. He had never dreamed that Uncle Long would attack him without even saying a word. This was too much. Can we still have fun together in the future? When the Great Elder came back to his senses, he only felt extreme pain all over his body, as if all the bones in his body were about to fall apart. Before he could fight back, his arms were clamped by the master of the Ning family. In this way, it was much more convenient for Uncle Long to beat the Qilin. You're bullying me with your numbers. You're really bullying me." The first elder of the Qilin clan was filled with grief and indignation. His face was blue and purple, and his clothes were crumpled. Then, there was a ripping sound as most of his clothes were torn off and hung loosely on his body. Even so, Uncle Long still didn't vent his anger. His rain-like fists finally knocked the Qilin Great Elder unconscious. After the first elder of the Qilin family fainted, Uncle Long kicked him a few more times. He was still angry and shouted, "I'll let you have it. I'll let you have it. You really dare to ask for anything? Uncle Long, calm down. We've already taught him a lesson, so let's not argue with him." Seeing that Uncle Long was still angry, Master Ning pulled on his arm and tried to persuade him. "AI. This old Qilin's emotional intelligence was really worrying. Even if we don't care, it will depend on their performance. They really are a bunch of IQs that make one anxious. No wonder Shuai was so angry that time." Uncle Long glared at the unconscious first elder of the Qilin clan on the ground and said with hatred. Chapter 2843, You Really Dare to Ask for Anything. 2, Hee. Let's wait for him to wake up and see what he has to say. Although Master Ning was also a little angry, he found it more ridiculous. He really didn't know what these Qilin were thinking. How could he have such a weird idea? It seemed like only Ice Soul and Shuai Mo were normal in the Qilin race. The other Qilins more or less had that kind of thing. It didn't take long for the Great Elder of the Qilin clan to wake up. However, he only opened his eyes slightly with a lingering fear. When he felt that there was someone beside him, he immediately closed his eyes again and pretended to be dead. In his heart, he was filled with endless sorrow. Woo! As the great elder of the Qilin clan, the leader of the 4 king mythical beasts, he had always thought that he could get whatever he wanted and was respected by countless humans and beasts wherever he went. However, in Demon City, in front of Uncle Long and the others, he didn't feel that way at all. This place was filled with a group of vicious bandits. Demon City could also be called a bandit's lair. The people here, other than the newly accepted little beasts who still held some respect for them, the others. Sigh. It's fine if you don't mention it. The Qilin Great Elder closed his eyes and pondered seriously, but he couldn't understand why this was happening. What was the problem? Just as he was deep in thought, he suddenly felt a weight on his butt, as if a foot had stepped on it. Then, Uncle Long's voice rang in his ears, "Since you're awake, stop pretending to be unconscious. Get up." Hearing this, the Qilin Great Elder couldn't help but shiver. Then, he hurriedly rolled and crawled to his feet in a sorry state. After he got up, he forced a smile and tried to open his swollen purple eyes. He looked at Uncle Long with a fawning yet scared expression. Uncle Long," the Qilin Great Elder opened his mouth carefully, but he was secretly looking down on his own cowardice. Woo, the Great Qilin, why was he afraid of a dragon whale? Such a fact really made him too sad. However, he also knew that Uncle Dragon was no ordinary dragon whale, because Uncle Dragon was already a godly venerable rank beast. And for godly venerable rank beasts, the pressure of their innate bloodline was so light that it was negligible. Otherwise, he would not have been so cowardly in front of Uncle Long. "Since you know to call me uncle, I'm your elder from now on. So, you must take my words to heart, understand?" Uncle Long cut to the chase when he saw the Qilin Great Elder stammering. The Qilin Great Elder was depressed. Calling him Uncle Long was just a form of respect, and it didn't mean that he had acknowledged him as his uncle. How could the dragon whale be so? The Great Elder Qilin didn't know what to say. In fact, he was on par with Uncle Long in terms of seniority, but now, he was being treated as a junior by the others just because they called him Uncle Long. Fuck. He had called him Uncle Long for a long time, so why was he only calling him junior now? The first elder of the Qilin clan became more and more worried. At this moment, he could not understand how he had suddenly become the other party's junior. In fact, Uncle Long had said that on purpose. Since the Great Elder Qilin had blocked him earlier, he had to fight back. Otherwise, it would ruin the name of Demon City. Right now, Uncle Dragon's priority was Demon City. Then, Uncle Long patted the Qilin First Elder's shoulder and said, "Of course, we welcome your Qilin race to enter Demon City. However, you must follow our rules. So, all of your previous plans have to be melted down. After this, I will tell you about the arrangements for you." The Qilin Great Elder was dumbfounded. He had to follow the other party's rules. What business did the Qilin clan have? The Qilin Great Elder was speechless for a moment, but Uncle Dragon took it as a silent agreement. He patted the Great Elder's shoulder in relief, and Uncle Dragon led the way. Master Ning, Dongfang Yu, Dongfang Lin, and the others followed closely behind. Before they left, they all looked at the Great Elder Qilin deeply before leaving with a sigh. When the Qilin Great Elder came back to his senses, he was the only one left in the huge garden. The next day, the Great Elder Qilin was summoned by Uncle Long and the others, and then he quickly went to the meeting hall. Thanks. When he entered the meeting hall, he was immediately treated coldly. Uncle Long and the others did not give him a smile. After he sat down uneasily, a few thin pieces of paper were quickly placed in front of him. The Qilin First Elder felt a headache as he looked at those pieces of paper. Your sister. He couldn't read. He looked at the few pieces of paper as if he was reading a heavenly book. He only recognized a few words on them, and most of them were unfamiliar to him. Seeing the Qilin Great Elder's constipated expression, Master Ning picked up the paper in front of him with an evil smile and said to the Qilin Great Elder, "I'm sorry, I forgot that you might not be able to read." No. He didn't forget, he did it on purpose. The Qilin Grand Elder was in tears. After that, Master Ning was kind and started to talk about the contents of the paper. It was a plan for the Chelan tribe. It listed the rules that the Chelan tribe had to abide by in Demon City, and at the same time, it also marked out the territory of the Chelan tribe. When the first elder found out that the place Uncle Long and the others had arranged for the Chelan clan was less than 1/3 of the place they had chosen, he felt a deep pain in his balls. How could they, the Chelan, live in such a small place? One must know that Chelan was full of wildness and loved to transform into their original form to run and roar in the open wilderness. But now, there was only a small space. Let alone transforming into their original form, even if more Chelan came, their buttocks would probably bump into each other. No. This bit of territory definitely wouldn't do. The first elder of the Chelan clan immediately protested strongly. Master Ning, who had already guessed his reaction, smiled and said, "It's only this big, take it or leave it." Woo! This is too much. The Chelan Great Elder was heartbroken. It seemed like he couldn't use force. With this thought in mind, he immediately changed his previous attitude and sobbed, "Our Chelan's body is huge, and this little territory is really not enough. Can't you make an exception? Big body? This is easy. You guys can completely mimic each other, so you won't need to use so many places." Uncle Long continued with a smile. "We don't like mimicry," the Chelan First Elder said with a bitter expression. The mimicry really damaged the mighty image of their Chelan clan. "Then I can only transform into human form," Uncle Long continued to suggest. "We're used to living as we please. We've always been living in whatever form our clansmen like." The First Elder of the Chelan clan reminded him in a low voice. "I see. It seems that you really aren't suited to stay in Demon City," Uncle Long, who seemed helpless, said with a face full of regret. Chapter 2844, You really have the guts to ask for anything. 3. Suitable. How could we not be suitable? There's no other place more suitable than us to garrison in Demon City. Please believe me. Upon hearing Uncle Long's words, the first elder of the Chelan clan was a little dazed. When he came to his senses, he quickly said, "Oh, really? Then please tell me, Great Elder Chelan, how are you two suitable?" Uncle Long was curious. "We're strong, and each of us can do the work of 10 humans. We're also powerful. With us around, Demon City's safety will definitely be greatly increased, don't you think so?" The first elder of the Chelan family saw that Uncle Long was interested and immediately replied. "That's true." Uncle Long nodded in agreement. The first elder of the Chelan family was excited to see Uncle Long's attitude. This meant that there was a chance. Hee. However, he only jumped for a moment before he heard Uncle Long say, "But the amount of food each of you can eat is equivalent to 10 humans. As time passes, we really can't afford to feed you. Think about it, why don't we forget about it?" "No, Kiss." The Chelan first elder became anxious. He grabbed Uncle Long's leg without caring about his image and cried, "Uncle Long, don't abandon us, and don't abandon us. Let's get closer to our ancestor. Woo, I want to help you, but you want a big place and all of you are big eaters. What should we do?" Uncle Long said with a troubled expression. "Woo. We don't want a big place anymore, alright? But the territory you've given me is indeed a little too small. How about you give us half of the place you chose earlier? We can also control the amount of food we eat." First Elder Chelan negotiated with Uncle Long with tears in his eyes. Hearing this, Uncle Long and the others looked at each other and smiled. "He should have done this long ago. You bastard." They had to put on an act with the other party. In fact, according to their previous discussion, they would at least allow the Chelan Great Elder to haggle for 2/3 of the area he wanted. They didn't expect that this old fellow was afraid that they would refuse the Chelan clan's settlement and only asked for half of the area they had originally wanted. In this way, they could be considered to have profited. After both the host and the guest had reached an agreement, the Great Elder of the Chelan clan was afraid that they would go back on their word, so he requested to sign a contract. Of course, Uncle Long and the others were more than happy to do so. After everything was done, the first elder of the Chelan clan went to prepare the Chelan clan's branch in high spirits. Now that the path was clear and he had gotten the permission of Uncle Long and the others, the great elder of the Kylan family was swift and decisive in his work, and Uncle Long and the others cooperated with him. The only thing they couldn't cooperate with was to ask for the fire you from Tsung at the request of the great elder of the Kylan family. You bastard! Who would dare to ask for people before they were tired of playing? Uncle Long didn't dare. Master Ning didn't dare. Brother Dongfang, you wouldn't dare. The Chelan great elder didn't dare to do so. Just like that, Huiyu seemed to have been forgotten. No one mentioned him again. Half a month later. Under the Chelan clan's hard work, the Chelan clan's encampment was quickly built and put into use. The time limit that Uncle Long had given to the small families was up. Before the deadline, only 3 families had made the wise decision to become Demon City's subsidiary families and sign a loyalty contract with Demon City. Although the 3 families didn't meet Uncle Long's expectations and caused him to lose the bet with Master Ning, it was better than nothing. The depressed Uncle Long could only comfort himself in this way. The 3 families that were willing to join Demon City were not large in scale. The largest family among them had less than 100 members. Meanwhile, such families could be found everywhere in the Divine Realm, and they were often the most difficult to survive in. In addition, the most important thing was that these 3 families were relatively innocent. Due to the 3 major powers' small scale and weak strength, almost no major power had tried to recruit them. Aside from seeking Demon City's protection, the 3 major powers had also been forced to do so by their enemies. Yes. The 3 clans all had enemies of different degrees. In the immortal realm, it was basically normal to have enemies, but to small clans like them, even one enemy could be considered fatal. If the enemy had some power, he could easily crush them. It was under such circumstances that they made such a choice. Although their reasons for joining Demon City weren't simple, Uncle Dragon and the others could understand. After all, no one expected these small families to join Demon City due to the city's overbearing aura. That would be unrealistic. Uncle Dragon didn't care what reason they had to become Demon City's subsidiary families, as long as they were loyal. This was the most important thing. Uncle Long and the others also welcomed them. However, when Uncle Long arranged for a beastie to show them around the encampment, the 3 patriarchs were so frightened that their faces turned pale and they came to find Uncle Long and the others again. As soon as they saw Uncle Long, the 3 family heads immediately knelt down and begged with trembling hands, "Uncle Long, please help us move to another location. Give me a reason." Uncle Long squinted his eyes and said unhappily, "We have a Kirin beside us." A family head stammered. "So what?" Uncle Long was confused. "Thanks, it's a Kirin." The clan head said. Sob. "Being neighbors with a Chelan, isn't this asking for my life?" He was so scared that he couldn't speak after being glanced at by a certain Chelan, so how could he dare to build a house next to him? This was simply too terrifying. What's wrong with Chelan? They're also our Demon City's resident guests. You'll be neighbors from now on, so you should get along well. Uncle Long warned. They just didn't know how to get along with the Chelan. The 3 family heads were in tears. This was too much. It's good that you're used to it. You still have a lot of things to do. Seeing that the 3 patriarchs didn't say anything, Uncle Long took it as a silent agreement and asked them to leave. Helplessly, the 3 patriarchs could only leave with tears in their eyes. After they left, Master Ning glanced at Uncle Long and couldn't help but ask, "Is it really a good idea to put those weak little guys with Chelan? Don't get sick from the shock. After joining Demon City, it's only a matter of time before we get used to the existence of the 4 divine beast kings, so putting them together is the fastest and most direct way. In addition, when they finish building their base, it'll give them special training. All of you have to raise your strength as soon as possible." Uncle Long explained his plan with a slight disdain. Ugh! Master Ning knew that Uncle Long was bored out of his mind. In fact, he was also bored to death. Therefore, without thinking, he said, I can also train them together. Yes, well, give them special training together. Uncle Long said, as if it was better to be happy together than to be happy alone. Just like that, the future of the three small families had been arranged by Uncle Long and Master Ning. After they had built the house with great difficulty and fear, they received the news from Uncle Long before they could wait for the heat. They were about to receive special training. The three families were rather curious, not knowing what kind of special training it would be. When the younger generation heard that there would be special training, they were even more excited. However, when they really came into contact with the so-called special training, the suffering of the three families had truly arrived. The special training was carried out in the dream dust space. Of course, the place was also provided by the dream dust space. Ever since the only resident in his space, the illusionary dust space, had left, it had been idle. As a result, Dream Dust, who was also extremely bored, decided to provide his own personal space after learning that Uncle Dragon was going to give special training to the new Demon City members. Ever since Len Ruoxue and the rest had entered the Dream Dust space for the special training, it had been a long time since they had come into contact with new blood. Hence, the Dream Dust space had placed great importance on this special training. The consequences that he paid attention to also meant that the difficulty of some people's special training would more than double. As such, these people would not be able to leave the Dream Dust space without a few years. At the same time, Len Ruoxu's closed-door cultivation continued. Qing Ju, who was very worried about Len Ruoxue, would personally visit the Purple Bamboo House every once in a while to check on her. He could only be at ease after knowing that his sister was fine. As for Len Ruoxue, who had already sealed off all her senses, she naturally did not know about Qing Ju's worries. She was still trying her best to absorb the spiritual energy in the space based on her instincts to feed her bottomless body. On a certain day, Qing Ju was taking care of his flowers and plants as usual. Suddenly, he clearly felt the spiritual energy in the bracelet go berserk, and he immediately disappeared. At this moment, outside the Purple Bamboo House, First Elder, Shen Nua, and the others had already gathered. These few people had been staying in the bracelets, refining pills and weapons. They also took advantage of the abundant spiritual qi here to cultivate. Unless it was absolutely necessary, they basically didn't step out of their houses now. But today, they were all attracted by the spiritual qi in the space that had suddenly become violent. When they left their rooms, they realized that the source of the spiritual qi was actually the Purple Bamboo House. The people who knew that Shuer was in seclusion couldn't help but worry for her. To be honest, they did not dare to absorb such brutal spiritual energy, but Shuer. Seeing the spiritual qi filling the sky and swarming toward the Purple Bamboo House, the hearts of the few people trembled. Would this be dangerous? When they saw Qing Ju appear, a few of them looked at him worriedly. Qing Ju could only comfort him, "It'll be fine, don't worry." How could he not be worried? That girl was the backbone of everyone. Shen Nua and the rest thought to themselves. The great elder was so anxious that cold sweat broke out on his forehead, and his face gradually turned pale. He was so nervous that his hands were trembling. Qing Ju did not know how to explain to them the strange phenomenon that his sister had caused. Could he say that this was child's play and that the more shocking things were yet to come? No. He didn't dare to say it. If he did, the first elder who had always treated his sister like his own granddaughter would be the first to be provoked. Chapter 2845, Green Vessel's Wrath. 1. Therefore, Qing Ju did not dare to say anything and entered the Purple Bamboo House under everyone's expectant gazes. At this moment, Len Ruoxue, who was in the Purple Bamboo House, was completely unaware of everything that was happening outside and the commotion she had caused. She was only relying on her instincts to absorb the spiritual energy from the outside world. It was as if her bottomless body could not be filled up at all. Under the brutal spiritual energy's rampage, Len Ruoxu's current appearance was rather frightening. Blood was constantly seeping out of her pores, wetting her clothes and flowing down to the ground. The bright red blood had almost dyed her a bloody person. When Qingju saw this scene, he was shocked. He couldn't help but think to himself, my sister's cultivation is getting more and more dangerous. More importantly, it's getting scarier and scarier. He could still clearly remember that the last time his sister cultivated, she was in a similar situation, but it was not as serious as now. More importantly, that devilish man was present at that time. If anything unusual happened to his sister, that devilish man could help at any time. But now, Qingju was a little worried. His sister's current condition was extremely bad. Moreover, this was only the first time the spiritual energy was being used. At this moment, Qingju felt helpless and angry at himself for not being able to help his sister. This fact made him anxious. Although he didn't want to admit it, he knew that at this moment, the person he needed the most was Tsang. Without hesitation, he contacted Tsang. In the main residence, Tsang, who had received the news, immediately went to find Uncle Long and threw a man in tattered clothes, who looked like a beggar, to the ground in front of Uncle Long. After that, Tsang disappeared without a word. Uncle Long looked at the direction where Tsang had disappeared and then at the unconscious man on the ground. It took him a long time to recognize that this man was Huiyu. After recognizing the other party as the Fire Yu, Uncle Long couldn't help but sigh. The Fire Yu had obviously suffered a lot in its current image. Soon after, he sent a beast to find the Qilin Great Elder and pointed to the man who was curled up like a shrimp on the ground. Senior Tsang has returned your clan head. You can take him back. This is my family patriarch. Looking at the dirty man on the ground, the Qilin First Elder clearly didn't believe him. It can't be wrong. Senior Azure personally sent it over. It's definitely not fake. Uncle Long promised seriously. Ah. The First Elder of the Qilin clan didn't know what to say. He picked up the man on the ground and left. At the same time, Green Vessel had also moved Tsang into the bracelet. This time, Tsang and Qingju were surprisingly harmonious when they met. It was obvious that neither of them was in the mood to bicker with the other. However, the First Elder and the others were surprised to see Tsang Ho. Thanks. Why is Senior Tsang here? Then, they watched as Tsang entered the purple bamboo house without a word. For some reason, when First Elder and the others saw this scene, the uneasiness in their hearts actually deepened a bit. Seeing this, Qingju could only use the excuse of not disturbing his sister's seclusion as an excuse to clear the area. After Tsang entered the purple bamboo house, he found a small corner to lie down, and constantly observed Nyo's condition. From the looks of it, Nyo could still handle it on her own. The spiritual energy in her body was also slowly dispersing in an orderly manner, so it obviously didn't need to do anything at this time. And what it had to do was to wait for the spiritual energy in Nyo's body to gather too much, and when it was unable to effectively disperse it, it would then give her a helping hand from the outside. Right now, it could only wait. Not long after, the second wave of violent spiritual energy came. This time, it was even more violent than the last time. The First Elder and the others were alarmed again. However, Green Vessel did not allow them to approach the purple bamboo house again, so they could only watch worriedly from a distance. After Qingju told them not to worry, he sneaked into the purple bamboo house and ignored them. When Green Vessel entered the purple bamboo house and saw that Tsang was actually sleeping, he was so angry that his hair stood on end. You bastard! This damn cat is really too detestable. She let it in to help her sister, but it was sleeping on its own. And his most beloved sister was enduring the pain alone, enduring the torture of refining her body with spiritual energy. Green Vessel was filled with hatred. Green Vessel was so angry that he rushed forward without thinking and grabbed one of Azure's ears to wake it up. Tsang, who had woken up, opened its eyes in a daze and saw that it was being held by a chubby little hand. After it was suspended in the air, it struggled slightly and got rid of Green Vessel's claws. It then said in a soft voice, "Are you crazy?" "I'm crazy. I asked you to take care of Big Sister, but what are you doing?" "Sleeping." Qingju shouted angrily after he cast a barrier on Len Ruoxue. The little one was about to explode from anger because of Tsang's dereliction of duty. However, Azure didn't seem to care. Wasn't Nyo fine? She can handle this level of spiritual energy on her own and doesn't need me to do anything at all. More importantly, if I do anything now, it won't be beneficial to Nyo's cultivation. You should know this. The spiritual energy has to refine the body step by step, and all the procedures cannot be ignored. Otherwise, do you think it's so easy to be a divine master? Of course, Qingju knew that it was not easy to be a divine master. To become a divine master, it was necessary to go through some hardships. However, his sister was not a divine master yet. Not even a reverent god. In addition, his sister's spiritual qi refinement was not an ordinary spiritual qi body refinement. Outsiders might not know the dangers, but he and Azure should know. But Tsang's carefree attitude really made Green Vessel unhappy. From a long time ago, the two of them had never gotten along. Now, Tsang's attitude made Green Vessel even more displeased. Thus, Green Vessel did not care why Tsang did not do anything. He continued to shout at the top of his voice, clenched his fists, and shouted angrily, "But you still can't sleep. You should open your cat eyes wide and look at this big sister. Is there a need for that?" Tsang didn't deny it, but he obviously didn't agree with Green Vessel's words. He explained, "I've been keeping an eye on Nyo. If there's really something wrong with her, it'll naturally take action, so you can be 120% at ease. You worry so much, no wonder you've always been like a child and can't grow up. You bastard. I didn't grow up because I was sealed, not because I have to worry too much." Originally, Tsang's first sentence had put Qingju at ease, but the latter sentence ignited Qingju's anger again. Hee. No matter what, it's a fact that you can't grow up. Little doll, calm down, with me here, Nyo will be fine. Tsang teased Qingju with a smirk. After that, he even used his furry little paws to touch Qingju's white and tender face, enjoying Qingju's soft tofu. Qingju was furious, but he was helpless against Tsang's scoundrels. More importantly, he needed this fellow to look after Sister Gu, so he had to endure it. Chapter 2846, Green Vessel's Wrath, 2, I'll deal with you in the future. Qingju secretly sighed. Of course, the prerequisite was that this guy still dared to come to his territory in the future. However, Green Vessel did not trust Tsang anymore and stayed in the purple bamboo house with him. When Tsang saw him like this, he fell asleep even more peacefully. As for Green Vessel, he could only sulk alone. What a mistake. Miscalculated. Qingju realized that he had fallen for Tsang's trick. With him here, that guy was sleeping even more fearlessly. How hateful. However, if he was not here, he would not be at ease with his sister. Qingju was conflicted. But in the end, his concern for Leng Ruoxue prevailed, and Green Vessel could only let Tsang's evil plan succeed. For the next few months, Leng Ruoxue underwent the spiritual qi's body refinement again and again. As her senses were shut off, Leng Ruoxue's own sense of pain was not too great. However, the body could not lie. All her pain had been fully expressed by her body. From head to toe, there was not an inch of her body that was still intact. Her entire body was covered in blood. The blood was so thick that it had formed a thin cocoon around Leng Ruoxue. And after training her body time and time again, the strength of her body was almost as strong as the Millennium Cold Steel. More importantly, such a terrifying spiritual energy body refinement had not ended, and he did not know how long it would continue. Right now, it was still far from the time when Azure thought it could make a move, so it was still sleeping. Qingju was not as heartless as Tsang. Ever since he had stayed in the purple bamboo house, he had been watching Leng Ruoxue closely. Every time Leng Ruoxue refined, his heart would be in his throat. Although he knew that his sister's current state was a necessary process for the heaven-defying art, he still felt bad for her. However, the only thing that comforted him was that his sister had shut off her senses, so she did not feel too much pain when she was refining her body with spiritual energy. However, her body was honest. I hope that when my sister wakes up, she won't be frightened by my appearance. Leng Ruoxu's soul-stirring cultivation continued. At the same time, the special training for the 3 newly joined small families was also proceeding in an orderly manner. In the blink of an eye, another 5 years had passed. Leng Ruoxu still had not come out of her closed-door cultivation. However, the 3 small clans were gradually beginning to have people who had passed the special training and come out. The members of the 3 clans who came out of seclusion all seemed to have been reborn. They were no longer the people who would tremble at the sight of the Qilin 5 years ago. Now, after the strict training of Uncle Long and the others, not only had their strength improved rapidly, but they had also become much more courageous. When the 3 family heads saw Qilin, they also dared to take the initiative to greet him, but they still didn't dare to be too close to him. However, this was already considered an improvement. After they came out of seclusion, Uncle Long immediately drove them out of Demon City and let them go to the God world to adventure and train by themselves. Even though they weren't mentally prepared to be driven away, their increased strength had also increased their confidence. Therefore, everyone who was driven out of Demon City was eager to do something big. After being influenced by Uncle Dragon and the others for a long time, they didn't have a good impression of Fog. That woman was no longer the high and mighty master god in their hearts, but an enemy. If they were enemies, of course they had to be destroyed. Uncle Long and the others couldn't help but twitch their lips when they heard their bold words. Did they really train these people who had the nature of bandits? Thanks, Uncle Long felt as if the sky was going to fall. They had actually trained a group of weak little white rabbits into man-eating rabbits. After reminding them and watching the 3 families leave, Uncle Long still said to Master Ning and the others, "Is it really a good idea to let them out like this?" Why did he feel that those little guys were overconfident? Hee. They've just finished their special training, so they're in high spirits and full of confidence. As such, it's best to let them go out and gain some experience. That way, they'll be able to wear down their spirit and let them know that once they have strength, they'll have to keep a low profile. As people from Demon City, they should know how to play the pig to eat the tiger. Master Ning laughed evilly. Yup. We can't let those little guys grow into greenhouse flowers. More importantly, Demon City doesn't want trash. Thus, if they want to gain a firm foothold in Demon City, they have to prove their strength, and going out to train is the best option. Dongfang Yu said. Since you're all so assured, then I don't have to worry. Uncle Long nodded. There's no need to worry about them. I'm more worried about Shuai. It's been 10 years, why hasn't that girl come out of seclusion? At this time, Master Ning started this sad topic again. As soon as he said that, the scene instantly fell silent. In the end, Uncle Long said, I'm going into seclusion. How could he come out so quickly? Back when I was in the endless ocean, it would take 100 years to take a nap and open my eyes again. Now, Shuai has only been in seclusion for 10 years, what's there to make a fuss about? How could this be the same? Master Ning and the others were speechless. Not to mention Shuai's talent, just the space. Shuai's space could accelerate time, so 10 years in the outside world would be countless years in there. In addition, with Shuai's level of talent, it was too abnormal for her to not come out of seclusion for 10 years. As such, they could not help but let their thoughts run wild. As they were discussing this matter, Huan Chen suddenly appeared and interrupted, "You guys are overdoing it. The completion of the heaven-defying art is the most difficult and takes the most time. So, there's no need to worry. Of course, if you guys are too free, why don't we go to the Imperial City together? Go to Imperial City to kill the Ripple Mist bitch?" Uncle Long and the others were a little conflicted about Huan Chen's suggestion. Although he couldn't deny that his suggestion was good, they were all reverent god level. If the Mist Ripple slut's strength recovered, they might not be able to kill her. Of course, if the other party's strength had not recovered, it was still possible to cause some trouble. To the Imperial City. In. At this moment, another voice interrupted. Uncle Long and the others looked up and saw Ice Spirit. "Senior Ice Soul, do you want to join in the fun?" Uncle Long was speechless. Yes, I've just recovered my strength, so I want to go to Rime Ice to test my skills and see the gap between us. Ice Spirit nodded. In the past few years, he had been working hard to recover his strength. With the help of Schweier's pills, his strength had even exceeded his peak. Therefore, at this moment, he was full of fighting spirit. I'll go too. Suddenly, a voice came from behind Ice Soul. Then, a dark golden ball of fur climbed up her back. Beast God, you should stay in Demon City. Uncle Long immediately said. Although this little fellow's identity was frightening, his strength was really not something to be complimented about. At least in terms of true strength, he could not compare to the few powerful Reverend God-level experts present. However, they were extremely talented, and their status was also innate. No beast could be compared to them. Chapter 2847, Green Vessel's Wrath, 3. In addition, although Bao Bao had recovered its memory and strength, it was still quite young. Therefore, as time passed, Uncle Long and the others could no longer treat it as the legendary beast god. When the baby heard this, he looked at Uncle Long with tears in his eyes and said, "Woo! Are you guys despising me? I can control beasts. I can definitely help. Baby." This wasn't a matter of controlling the beast, the key was whether there were any beasts around Fog for you to control. If not, what are you going to do? Everyone was silent. Seeing this, Bao Bao looked at Ice Soul and said, "Little soul, I want to go." I'll go. Let's all go together." Ice Spirit couldn't stand her baby's innocent eyes and surrendered immediately. This boss who had been reborn. In his heart, she was equivalent to an ice phoenix. He also felt as if he had a son, because the boss that he had lost and found with great difficulty had actually learned to act coquettishly. This really took Qilin's life. The baby was happy to see Ice Spirit compromise. Then, it pounced into Ice Spirit's arms and acted coquettishly, leaving Ice Spirit helpless. What else could Uncle Long say after Ice Spirit agreed? "Since you want to go to the Imperial City, who will stay behind this time?" Uncle Long asked another key question. "I definitely don't want to stay." Dongfang Yu immediately expressed his opinion. "You bastard." He had been left behind several times, and this time, he was not willing to be left behind no matter what. "Why do we need to stay behind?" Huan Chen asked in confusion. "If we don't, what if the enemy attacks?" Uncle Long said matter-of-factly. "Isn't our only enemy the Ripple Mist bitch? And we're going to the Imperial City now," Huan Chen reminded. "Doesn't she still have a clone?" Uncle Long also reminded him. Huan Chen fell silent upon hearing this. In the end, the crowd discussed and raised their hands to vote. The unlucky Master Ning was left behind. The depressed Master Ning watched Uncle Long and the others leave, feeling sad. And Reverend God's speed was fast. The few of them took turns to teleport, and they arrived at the Imperial City in less than half a day. The guard at the entrance of the Imperial City had seen Bingpa before, so when he saw them, he immediately ran into the city as if he had seen a ghost. He kept shouting, "There's an enemy! There was an enemy! That Qilin is here again! Everyone, be on your guard! Has Len Ruoxue arrived yet?" Someone in the city asked, and his voice could be heard. Everyone was silent and turned to look at Ice Spirit. Ice Spirit was embarrassed by their stares and explained, "It's not my fault. The little girl is too powerful. They're not afraid of me." But would anyone believe this? Ice Spirit shook his head and sighed. Then, he and the others swaggered into the Imperial City. The guards didn't dare to stop them, let alone collect their fees. "You bastard!" He was almost scared to death. How could he still be in the mood to collect fees? He strode to the main gate of the Divine Master's estate. The two doors immediately opened and Xian Yi and the other two Reverend God-level cultivators walked out. When he saw Uncle Long and the others, Xian Yi asked with a helpless smile, "Why have you all come here?" After asking such nonsense, even Xian Yi despised himself a little. Was there a need to ask? These few people were probably here to cause trouble out of boredom. And wasn't this formation a little too frightening? Four reverent god-level experts and a white-robed man whose strength he couldn't even see through, what were they up to? One should know that the Divine Lord's estate only had 3 reverent gods, but the other party had sent 4 at once. This was definitely not a sign of friendship. Xian Yi was well aware of this, but he had no choice but to put on an act. AI. The life of a spy was not easy. Nothing big, I'm just here to cause trouble. Uncle Long laughed evilly. After he had enough eye contact with Xuani, he said. Your sister. This old whale actually dared to say that. Hearing this, Xian Yi's mind was in a mess. Demon City was so arrogant now that they didn't need to be more subtle about causing trouble at the Divine Lord's estate. The answer now was obviously yes. As for the people from the Divine Lord's estate, they were all upset when they heard Uncle Long's arrogant words. Since when could the high and mighty Divine Master's estate allow others to cause trouble as they pleased? Thanks, is that Ripple Mist bitch here? Seeing that the other party was silent, Uncle Long continued to smile very lewdly. The God Lord isn't here. Ignoring the word, bitch, Xian Yi said helplessly. It's good that he's not here. We can finally move freely. Uncle Long said, satisfied. The people in the God Lord's manor were depressed again. The Divine Master isn't here, so you can do whatever you want, right? In fact, Uncle Long and the others were happy to hear that the Ripple Mist bitch wasn't here, because this meant that she was still healing. However, it was not good news for Ice Spirit. The main reason he came to U City was to find that bitch, Wu Cheng. If he wasn't here, who would he call? Ice Spirit was obviously not interested in the 3 reverent god-level cultivators. That was why he was sad. An ice-cold aura floated around them and gradually spread to the 3 of them. Feeling the sudden chill, Xian Yi and the other 2 looked at Ice Spirit helplessly. When Ice Spirit saw that she had attracted the attention of the 3, she said, I'll give you 2 choices. Either the 3 of you come at me together, or call out the Ripple Witch and let me fight her. Please choose the 3rd option. The 3 of them were in tears. This Qilin former clan leader was clearly a battle maniac, and he even wanted the 3 of them to attack together. To be honest, there were not many reverent gods in the divine realm who were willing to fight with the Ice Spirit. Because that would be a completely one-sided beating. But now, the other party had their eyes on the 3 of them. What could they do? The 3 of them looked at each other and communicated with their eyes. Then, they turned to the guards beside them and said, Go and inform the God Lord that Senior Ice Soul has arrived. As the saying goes, better a fellow Taoist than a poor one. The current situation was clearly already out of their control. It was better to invite the Divine Master out. After Wu Yan heard this news, she quickly stopped healing and walked out of the secret room. Seeing Wu Chen again after several years, Ice Soul found that her complexion was much better than before. It seemed that after so many years of healing, her injuries had almost recovered. This fact made him quite unhappy. If Wu Chen's injuries were completely healed, it also meant that he would have time to find trouble with them. This can't do. Shuer still hasn't come out of seclusion. He absolutely couldn't let Wu Xian heal first. After thinking about it, Ice Spirit deliberately shouted at Wu Xiao, Ripple Mist bitch, you haven't appeared in the immortal realm for so long, I thought you were already dead. Humph. Ice Soul, is there any point in arguing? The red-robed Wu Chen said with a smile. Of course it's meaningful. I'll be very happy if I can anger you to death. Ice Spirit replied with a smile. I'm afraid you won't be able to do as you wish. I heard that you're here to pick a fight with me. Wu Xian asked in a calm manner. Not bad. Ice Spirit nodded. You think you're my match? What about Len Ruoxue? Tell her to get out here. River Ripple said angrily. Then, she started to look around Ice Spirit. Seeing all the familiar faces, Wu Yan was so angry that she was about to explode. Wait a minute. Why was this guy here? After seeing the long-lost dream dust, she could no longer control her anger. She pointed at Dream Dust and asked, "You. Why are you here?" What she wanted to ask was why Huan Chen was with Ice Soul and the others. When did they get together? However, Huan Chen acted as if he didn't understand what she was saying. He elegantly smiled and said, "I can't be here. This is also my home." "Damn it, don't play dumb. I'm asking you, how did you end up with these people?" Wu Xian's flames of anger burned wildly. Her red clothes fluttered without any wind, and the flames spewing out of her eyes simply wanted to drown Huan Chen. "What do you mean?" Huan Chen asked in confusion. "If you're with them now, that's called fooling around." Ripple Mist angrily replied. "Is she with you?" Huan Chen asked again. "That's the wisest choice you can make. Dream Dust. I order you to return to my side." Rhyme howled with jealousy, her beautiful face contorted in anger. Yes. She was jealous. He was so jealous that he was about to go crazy. Why? Why did Len Ruoxue have everything that she could not get despite all her efforts? What kind of charm did that little girl have that she could actually make these experts, whom she was quite envious of, work for her? She was the divine master. She was the master of the divine realm, all right? Why did that wretched girl have to be 100 times better than her in front of these old fellows? And he was not welcomed by them? Since ancient times, his existence had been like a thorn in the flesh of these people. They looked down on him, and even if he became a god lord, they wouldn't even think highly of him. She had also thought of subduing them, but these hateful guys didn't even put her in their eyes. Now that the stinky girl had appeared, she had immediately come to his door. These people's extreme attitudes towards her and Len Ruoxue made Wu Xiao so jealous that she was about to go crazy. One had to know that among the people in front of her, other than the dragon whale from tens of thousands of years ago, which was slightly weaker, Dongfang Yu, Dongfang Lin, Huan Chen, and Bing Po were all people she wanted to subdue. However, she had thought of all sorts of ways, even using both soft and hard tactics, but she had not been able to make these people admit defeat. Now, these people were all standing on the opposite side of her and had become her enemies. How could this not make her vexed and angry? If he had known this would happen, he would have killed them all. Chapter 2848, You're Also Alive? 1. Wuhan regretted this. He didn't kill them back then, but now, they were all taken advantage of by that damned brat Len Ruoxue. However, it was too late for regrets now. And even if Fog was filled with regret, it could not change this fact. At this moment, Ice Soul, who was watching Huan Chen and Wu Chen's interaction, looked at the two and said with a look of realization, "So the relationship between the two of you is not shallow." Ice Spirit's words were very subtle, but everyone present understood what he meant. Thus, Uncle Dragon and the others cooperated and looked at Huan Chen and Wu Chen with ambiguous eyes. They looked at Huan Chen until he was scared. Following that, everyone heard Mirage Dust Fire roar, "You bastard! Who has a close relationship with this old bitch? I have nothing to do with her." Huan Chen's words could not be said to not be poisonous. It was fine to call her a slut, but he added the word old in front of it. As a result, everyone naturally laughed very happily, but Wu Chen's beautiful face became even more distorted and instantly turned green. However, no one cared if Wu Ling was angry or not. After all, everyone was here to anger her. It would be best if she could anger her to death, but even if she didn't, she would still cause trouble for the other party. You guys. I won't let you guys off." Seeing that Uncle Long and the others were laughing wildly, Wu Xiao, who was so angry from embarrassment, was almost speechless. After a long time, she finally managed to say something. Hearing her words, everyone laughed even more heartily. "Ripple, you bitch," Uncle Long said with a smile. "Even if you let us go, we don't intend to let you go." "That's right." Ice Spirit liked it. Seeing Ice Spirit speak again, Wu Ling suddenly laughed and said, "Ice Spirit, I know you hate me for throwing your son away, but it's been so long. Even if you hate me to the core, I'm afraid your short-lived son won't be back." The mist ripple red fruit drew hatred, but Ice Spirit wasn't angry at all. She calmly replied, Wuchen, I always thought that you were very smart. Only today do I know that you're also an idiot. You can't be thinking that I'll be angry if you provoke me like this, right? I'm really sorry, I'm afraid I'll have to disappoint you. Besides, I want to kill you not just to avenge my son. You should understand this, right? You bastard. Who are you calling a short-lived ghost? You're the short-lived one, your whole family is short-lived. As soon as Bing Pa finished speaking, Bing Yao came out from behind her father and cursed, leaving no chance for Wu Chan to provoke her. Hearing her son's voice, Bing Pa patted Bing Jia's head to comfort her. When she suddenly saw a small Kailan, of course, she was surprised. When she heard the small Kailan scold her, she was also a little angry. However, when she saw that the small Kailan looked very similar to Ice Spirit, she had a bad feeling. Could it be? No, that's impossible. Back then, when she had abandoned that little Qilin, she had clearly cut off the little Qilin's life force, so it was absolutely impossible for that little Qilin to be alive. With this thought in mind, Wu Han had a clear idea of what was going on. She looked at the small ice-blue Qilin, which was glaring at her, with a sympathetic expression and incited, Little guy, it doesn't feel good to be someone else's substitute, does it? AI. I really do pity you. Although you're an ice Qilin, you don't have the bloodline of an ice spirit. If he finds his son one day, what will you do? You will be abandoned by the ice spirit. Thanks. When Wu Ling said this, her expression of sympathy for Bing Yao grew more and more solemn. Bing Yao was baffled, while Uncle Long and the others could not help but feel their foreheads fill with black lines. This woman's IQ was really worrying. How can you sow discord like this? You're not even sure if they're father and son. If not, wouldn't you be making a huge mistake by saying that? Father, what is this old slut saying? After thinking for a while, Bing Yao didn't understand what Wu Han meant, so she had to ask her father for help. She's farting. Ice Spirit said in disdain. In his heart, he couldn't help but think, was his relationship with Bing Yao something that others could just provoke? It was truly laughable. However, Wu Yan didn't think so. She felt that the Ice Spirit didn't dare to answer the little Kailan's question directly. There must be something wrong with their relationship. Therefore, she wasn't angry at all after hearing Ice Spirit's words. Instead, she put on a kind expression as if she didn't want to scare a child. Little Qilin, this old Qilin lost his son tens of thousands of years ago. Naturally, he's treating you as a substitute for his son. When he finds his son, you'll be abandoned by him. Bullshit. I'm not a substitute, I'm the little Qilin that you threw away tens of thousands of years ago. As soon as Ripple Mist finished explaining, Bing Yao angrily said. You're his son. Hee hee. Don't joke around, how is that possible? Little Kailan, Ice Spirit is lying to you. His son is long dead. Wu Wan didn't believe Bing Yao's words at all and continued to provoke her. At this moment, Ice Spirit smiled helplessly and asked, Do you mean that I'll mistake my son for someone else? Don't you know that beastie has a natural reaction to its own bloodline? Ripple of Fog was stunned by Ice Spirit's confidence. She smiled confidently and said, It can't be your son. When I threw your son into the lower world, I had already killed him. How can this little Qilin be it? His life force was cut off. These words echoed in Ice Soul's mind. In an instant, Ice Soul was furious. Fuck. His son's life force had actually been cut off. This was a fact that he only found out today. He had always thought that his son's slow growth was due to him not being nurtured by the Qilin race. However, it seemed like it was not just because of that. It seemed that the main reason why his son had been unable to reach adulthood was that his life force had been cut off. Ice Spirit couldn't just let it go after knowing what happened. She asked again, Did you really end my son's life back then? Of course, how could it be wrong to make it myself? Therefore, you should stop deceiving this little Qilin. It's absolutely impossible for it to be your son. Wu Xiao laughed complacently. She felt a sense of accomplishment for being able to stimulate the ice spirit. Father, am I really not your son? Bing Yao asked helplessly. He finally understood what the bitch was saying. When she threw it at him, she had cut off his way out. If it was really the son of ice spirit, it shouldn't be alive. But it was clearly alive, so who was it? In an instant, Bing Yao was a little confused. Even though it felt close to the ice spirit, it could not be sure if it was the ice spirit's son. It was in a dilemma. Bing Pio's heart ached when he saw Bing Yao's reaction. He took Bing Yao into his arms and said, "Of course your father's son. Don't tell me you doubt that father can't recognize his own son. Bing Yao, you're still young. When you've grown up, you'll be able to clearly sense the bloodline connection between us." Chapter 2849, You're also alive? 2. Lie. You're lying to this cute little Qilin. Ice Soul was trying to comfort her child, while Fog was trying to make her presence known. Ice Soul's anger reached a new level. Fuck. I'll deal with you after I've coaxed my son. Ice Spirit cursed in her heart and continued to coax her son. Bing Yao did not pay any attention to Wu Ling. She just buried her head in her father's arms, quietly feeling the special, indescribable bloodline connection between the two of them. After a while, Bing Yao raised her head from Bing Pio's arms. After looking at her father, she turned her angry eyes to Wu Ling and said fiercely, "Old bitch rhyme ice, don't even think about sowing discord between us father and son. To tell you the truth, I came from the lower realm. I'm the little Qilin that you threw into the lower realm back then." When Bing Yao said these words, he felt some regret in his heart. How could it be affected by this old bitch and let its thoughts run wild? If the ice spirit wasn't its father, would it be so good to it? Would it listen to it? Would he have no principles and play along with it? Thinking of this, Bing Yao's heart felt warm, and Wu Ling's words no longer affected it. However, after hearing Bing Yao's words, Ripple Mist was clearly quite surprised and disbelieving. This is impossible. It was impossible for that little Qilin to be alive. Moreover, you said that you came from the lower realm, haha. Do you think he'll believe you? With your strength, are you able to come up to the divine realm? Why can't I come up? Even if I can't come up, someone will bring me up. Seeing that Wu Jia was talking about his strength, Bing Yao was even more confident. That's right. With its strength, it was almost impossible in the divine realm. But even if it does come up, what can you do to me? Bing Yao laughed evilly as he thought. Who brought you up here? Upon hearing this, Wu Yan immediately asked. Little Shua brought me up here. Bing Yao told him honestly. Who is little Shua? Wu Xian didn't react for a moment. Little Shua is the little Shua you hate so much. Bing Yao said in a tongue-twister-like manner. Little Shua. Could it be Len Ruoshua? Wu Jing thought for a while before coming to a realization. But then, her anger rose instantly. That damned Len Ruoshua. It's fine that I'm going against her, but now I've even kidnapped a Qilin. Wait a minute. Could the words of this little Qilin be trusted? The suspicious Wu Ling didn't really believe Bing Yao's words. After thinking, she said, Do you think he'll believe you? Humph. Back then, that little Qilin simply couldn't have survived, so don't lie to me. Wu Xiao would never believe it. Bing Yao heard the other's words and felt helpless. Why did no one believe him when he told the truth? Did he have to force it to lie? Thinking up to this point, Bing Yao could only helplessly say, If you think that you'll feel better if I lie to you, fine. I was lying to you. Back then, I was already dead, and I was killed by you. A helpless expression appeared on Bing Yao's cute little face as she spoke, instantly causing Uncle Long and the others to burst into laughter. On the other hand, Wu Ling's face turned ashen and she was extremely angry. If she couldn't even tell that she was being laughed at by a little Qilin, then her IQ was really too low. However, before she could get angry, a dark golden furball climbed up from Ice Spirit's back. It stared at Wu Mo with hatred for a while and said, Bitch. Back then, I was also killed by you, but am still alive. Thanks, you. You're also alive. Seeing the furball, Wu Ice was stunned again. Then, anger rose to her head again. Fuck. All of them had actually come back to life. Wu Xiao was filled with hatred. Are these guys really unkillable? No. She would never believe it. Ripple wanted to retort, but Bao Bao beat her to it. Are you also going to say that I'm a fake? Right. Because there's no way you're still alive. Wu Yan said with certainty. In the past, this little save life had always been against her, so she had not shown any mercy when she killed him. She had even destroyed his soul. But now, the living little save life was in front of her, so how could she believe her eyes? Liar. It was all a lie. She would never believe that this little save life could reincarnate. This was because those who were killed by her, be it humans or beasts, would not have any chance of reincarnation. But how could he explain the facts in front of him? Wu Jing was uncertain for a moment, but then she became firm in her confidence. She looked at Bao Bao as if he was a counterfeit and said, I don't care who you are. If you want to impersonate the beast god, you're courting death. Beast god. As soon as these two words came out of Wu Xiao's mouth, except for Uncle Long and the others, who were quite calm because they already knew the truth, the people from the God Lord's estate were all shocked and speechless. Although they had never seen a beast god before, the legendary beast god was no small character. They had naturally heard of the great name of the beast god. Now that they heard that Wu Jing thought this little furball was a fake beast god, they were shocked and couldn't help but turn their eyes to the baby. Was this how the beast god was? It's a little furball. Wasn't this image a little too disappointing? It was undeniable that the baby's round body was quite cute, and many women might not be able to resist the urge to hug it when they saw it. However, as a beast god, this image was really too degrading. Shouldn't the legendary beast god be as mighty and majestic as the Qilin? How could he be so tiny and cute? How could anyone link the beast deity and furball together? Reputation and image did not match at all. Everyone in the Divine Master's estate was quite disappointed. Some people even looked at the baby with suspicion that you're a fake. Seeing this, the baby sighed helplessly and then listless. AI. There was no beastie at the scene, so there was no place for it to use its skills. And to fight with humans. No matter how one looked at it, it would be at a disadvantage. Seeing that the baby was listless, Wu Jing's previous anger and depression were replaced by a happy and proud smile, and she sneered, "Humph. A fake is a fake. Look at you, you good for nothing. You bastard. You're the good for nothing. Your whole family is a good for nothing." Being insulted by the enemy, no matter how good-tempered Bao Bao was, it was also angry. Fuck. If the baby doesn't show his power, do you think I'm a sick baby? The angry baby jumped out of Ice Soul's arms and roared into the sky. Uncle Dragon and Ice Soul's expressions changed. Even Wu Xiao's expression turned ugly. Because she was too familiar with this roar. She had heard it several tens of thousands of years ago. However, she absolutely did not believe that this hairy ball in front of her, which looked exactly like the beast god, had the ability to summon beasts like the beast god. Chapter 2850, You're Also Alive? 3. As for the other people present, when they saw the little furball roar in anger, they were all confused. Was this a roar to scare people when he couldn't win? With such a thought, everyone on Rhyme Ice's side couldn't help but laugh. Hearing the laughter, Uncle Long and Ice Spirit couldn't help but look at those people. At the same time, they were worried that they might not have the chance to attack again today. The beast god's wrath was unstoppable. After the baby finished shouting angrily, it seemed to have lost all its strength and fell from the sky. Ice Spirit saw this and quickly reached out to catch the baby. The baby smiled, then closed his eyes and fainted. Seeing that the baby had fainted, the people who were laughing wildly earlier laughed even louder. Are you done laughing? Ice Soul said as she held her son in one hand and her baby in the other. They were really a bunch of dogs who didn't know death. You guys will suffer later. Ice Spirit didn't pity them at all, because they asked for it. However, his words didn't stop the other party's laughter. Instead, it made them laugh even more wildly. All of you, shut up. At this time, Wu Xiao also roared, and their laughter came to an abrupt stop. The people from the God Lord's estate were confused about why the God Lord was helping the other side. However, when they saw the God Lord's serious face, they didn't dare to make a sound. Not long after, everyone present heard a sound coming from the distance. At first, it was just a buzzing sound, but as the object that made the sound approached, the sound became louder and louder, and it seemed that other sounds were mixed in with the buzzing sound. However, the distance was still a little far, so no one could tell what the sound was. Not long after, the sky suddenly turned gloomy. A mass of black clouds floated over from the distance at a speed visible to the naked eye. From time to time, the black clouds would flash with a few golden lights. Such a strange phenomenon shocked the people of the God Lord's estate to the point that they were speechless. What was this? The black cloud glowed with golden light and made a sound. It was only when the black cloud approached that they saw its true appearance. Oh my God! This wasn't a black cloud. It was clearly a troop made up of thousands of insects. In this group, there were bees, flies, mosquitoes, and so on. The insects that everyone was familiar with were still considered ordinary. There were even more that no one present knew. The smallest of these bugs was the size of an adult's fist. The biggest one was almost as big as a millstone. And there was more than one of such a big bug. Obviously, the biggest bug was the leader of this team. As they floated in the sky above the Divine Lord's estate, the strange phenomenon they caused attracted the interest of many people living in the imperial city. However, when they saw that the incident happened behind the Divine Lord's estate, most of them did not dare to touch the head of the Divine Lord's estate even if they wanted to watch the fun. However, a person's curiosity was truly endless. There were also some extraordinarily bold people who thought that no one knew about them, hiding in some corner and broadcasting the scene here. At the same time, the people of the God Lord's estate were also guessing what these bugs were doing here. A group walk. This definitely wasn't he. Then what were they doing here? And he even put out such a huge momentum, was he trying to scare someone to death? Although the strength of the Zergs in front of him was not very high, there were so many of them. When they saw that the sky was densely packed with enemies, the people of the God Lord's estate felt their scalps tingle. At this moment, the leading bee with a golden body said, "Who is bullying our beast god? You bastard! You really don't want to live anymore. Bullying the beast deity." Hearing the big bee's words, the people of the Divine Master's estate finally reacted. When they said they were bullying the beast god, were they referring to bullying that little fluff ball? Could it be that the little fur ball was really a beast deity? But didn't the Divine Master say that the other party was a fake? Who should they listen to? The people of the God Lord's estate were at a loss. They couldn't help but look at their boss. Wu Jing was very calm and said with a smile, "Are you sure it's a beast god? Don't be fooled by a liar. You bastard! You're the liar. Your whole family is a big liar." The golden bee immediately cursed when it heard that someone dared to slander its boss. It didn't care if the person was a master god or not. Thanks, this big bee was quite talented at scolding people. After scolding for a few minutes, it actually did not repeat the same thing. The faces of the people from the Divine Master's estate turned black. You bastard! Who would feel good after being scolded by a bug? As a result of the discomfort, someone took the lead and shouted at the golden bee, "Even if that little furball is a beast god, what does it have to do with you insects? Are you all beasts?" As soon as he said that, the people from the God Lord's mansion burst into thunderous laughter. "They're not beasts, so we're finally..." Suddenly, a slightly aged voice interrupted. Everyone looked up at the same time, only to find that they had been surrounded by snakes. The one who spoke was the most senior snake among the snakes. countless other venomous snakes stuck out their long tongues and glared at them. Their cold eyes emitted a cold chill. And those who were targeted by these poisonous snakes felt as if they had fallen into an ice cave, making them feel cold all over. They couldn't help but shiver, but no one dared to say anything against these poisonous snakes. More importantly, these snakes were very colorful, and they couldn't even name many of them. Or it could be said that these venomous snakes weren't from the snake clan that often moved around in the divine realm and were known to people. I really didn't expect that the fake little reserved life could actually command you. Seeing these venomous snakes, Wu Ling couldn't describe the feeling in her heart. This was because she knew all of these venomous snakes and had fought with them in the past. However, after she killed the beast god, these venomous snakes immediately disappeared from the divine realm. Moreover, in front of these venomous snakes, she still called the baby fake little Baisheng. Hearing this, the old viper who had spoken earlier grinned and said, "You're the little reserved life. You're the fake one. You ungrateful bastard. You." Wu Yan was so angry that her anger rose again, but that old poisonous snake didn't care at all. He shouted to his disciples and grand disciples, "Children, bite these traitors of the God Lord's estate to death. Especially this bitch in red. Everyone, bite as much as you can. After you're done, remember to quickly escape. Don't get caught by her." The old venomous snake's pre-battle encouragement immediately made all the snake children and descendants excited. However, when Uncle Long and the others heard this encouragement, they didn't know whether to be speechless or to praise this old venomous snake's wise move. Running after biting was definitely a great suggestion. Furthermore, he would definitely anger the enemy to death. Sure enough, when Uncle Long and the others turned their eyes to the Mist Ripple bitch, her face turned red, green, and black, almost like a palette. In the next moment, a commotion broke out in front of the Divine Master's estate. After the encouragement from the old viper, countless vipers rushed towards their previously selected targets without any delay. Instantly, the scene turned into a mess. Screams and the sound of footsteps rose one after another, lingering in the ears. Uncle Long and the others took a big step back to watch the show. For a time, everyone in the God Lord's estate suffered a collective disaster. Even the three reverent gods were not spared. Especially Xian Yi, he felt so aggrieved. He was clearly a spy. However, these venomous snakes did not distinguish between friend and foe and even bit him. However, she had no choice but to bite him. He would be exposed. With this thought in mind, Xian Yi had no choice but to close his eyes and pass out the moment he was bitten by a poisonous snake. At this moment, many people had been bitten by the venomous snakes, causing the God Lord's estate's fighting strength to drop. In reality, they couldn't be blamed for this, and it had nothing to do with strength. The main reason was that there were too many venomous snakes, and it was hard to guard against them. You could defend against one, but not a group. Therefore, it was almost impossible to not be bitten. Once bitten, the consequences were self-evident. In addition, at this time, the fog ice had already been surrounded by the snakes. At the same time, Leng Ruoxue had also reached a crucial moment in her cultivation. After cultivating for such a long time and going through the spirit chi body refinement time and time again, not only had Leng Ruoxue's Bodhi's strength reached an unimaginable level, but the spirit chi within her body was also nearing saturation. And this moment was the most important moment for her. Knowing that Leng Ruoxue was at the final stage, Zhang and Qing Ju were so nervous that they did not dare to blink. At this moment, the spiritual energy in the bangle was all flowing towards the purple bamboo house. In an instant, Leng Ruoxue's body was filled with spirit chi. She was dyed red by her blood, and her face, which was almost unrecognizable, gradually revealed a pained expression. This made Qing Ju's heart ache. "It's your turn now. Hurry up." Qing Ju turned to Zhang. "I know." Azure nodded with a solemn expression. At present, the spiritual energy in Nyo's body was so dense that it had almost solidified, so she really needed someone to help her with external help. Otherwise, if Nyo absorbed and fused it at her own speed, not only would the pain be doubled, but her life might also be in danger. Thus, both Azure and Green Vessel did not dare to take any risks. The next second, Azure decisively attacked. The majestic divine power flowed into Leng Ruoxu's body through its toes. The moment the divine energy entered her body, it immediately worked with Leng Ruoxu's physical and divine energy to deal with the restless spiritual energy. Absorption, fusion, and conversion. The two Shen powers worked together flawlessly. More and more Ling energy was tamed and Sung stopped the transfer of Shen power. After a long time, Leng Ruoxue, who had finally finished absorbing and converting all the spiritual energy in her body, opened her beautiful eyes that were as bright as autumn water. Chapter 2851 Leng Ruoxue, you and I are irreconcilable. 1. When they saw that Leng Ruoxue had woken up, Green Vessel and Sung immediately rushed into her arms and acted coquettishly. When they felt that there was an obstacle beside them, the man and the beast started to trample on each other. Neither of them was willing to show weakness and wanted to push the other out of Leng Ruoxue's arms so that they could have Leng Ruoxue's arms for themselves. Leng Ruoxue saw the two little fellows squirming around in her arms and could only helplessly hug the two of them together. She sighed and said, "All right, you two, stop messing around. Be good." AI. Both the palm and the back of her hand were meat. Her heart ached for anyone. More importantly, she had not seen familiar people for a long time. After seeing the two little fellows, she felt particularly close. It was great to see them the moment he opened his eyes. After Leng Ruoxue finished speaking, Green Vessel and Azure immediately quieted down. However, they were still staring at each other restlessly. Fortunately, they did not touch each other. Seeing this, Leng Ruoxue could only lie to herself and be satisfied. Then, the three of them started chatting. Of course, it was mostly Leng Ruoxue who was asking them about the situation. When she found out that she had been in closed-door cultivation for 10 years, Leng Ruoxue was stunned. It had actually been that long? Oh my God! Wouldn't Godfather and the others be worried to death? At the thought of this, Leng Ruoxue stood up anxiously, wanting to leave the purple bamboo house. Sister, wait. Just as Leng Ruoxue took a step forward, Qing Ju immediately reacted and stopped her. What? Leng Ruoxue looked at baby Su in confusion and said, Qing Ju, it's taking too long. I'm afraid that Godfather and the others will be anxious. Sister, even if you're afraid that they'll be anxious, you should at least take a bath and change your clothes. If you go out like this, you'll definitely scare them. Qing Ju could not help but remind her. Hearing Qing Ju's words, Leng Ruoxue looked at her own clothes suspiciously. With one look, she was shocked. This dirty person is her. At this moment, the blood on Leng Ruoxue's clothes had already congealed into dark red blood clots that covered her entire body. The skin on her hands and arms that were exposed had wrinkled, as if a layer of calluses had covered them. And this was only the part that she could see. She believed that the parts that she couldn't see weren't any better. He really couldn't show his face to anyone in this ghostly appearance. After placing the two little fellows down, Leng Ruoxue turned around to wash up. After a short while, Leng Ruoxue, who was refreshed and had changed into a set of clean clothes, walked out again. All right, you can go out now. Leng Ruoxue smiled. After leaving the purple bamboo house, Leng Ruoxue immediately saw the first elder and the others who were prohibited from approaching the purple bamboo house by Green Vessel. She quickly walked over. After exchanging some pleasantries with them, the great elder asked curiously, Shuer, are you able to advance to Reverend God level? I can't do it now. Although I have enough divine power, I'm still lacking in other aspects. However, I definitely have the strength of a Reverend God now. Leng Ruoxue said after a moment of gloominess. Arg! After cultivating for so long, you still can't make a breakthrough? The first elder felt a little regretful, but any cultivation was extremely dangerous, so he was still very happy to see Shuer come out unscathed. Yes, my heaven-defying art not only requires a large amount of divine power, but also alchemy, weapon forging, and other aspects. I have enough divine power now, and I only lack other aspects. So, I just need to specialize in other aspects in the future. Len Ruoxue explained. Thanks. In addition, the most difficult part of the heaven-defying art was the divine power, which required a huge amount of energy. Now that she had solved the most difficult one, she didn't need to go into seclusion for the rest as long as she had the materials. Therefore, she could go back to her previous self, deal with things while refining pills and weapons. However, this time, she would focus her energy on alchemy, weapon refining, and other aspects. Since that's the case, we'll do our best to supervise you in the future and try to help you advance as soon as possible. Hearing Len Ruoxue's words, First Elder laughed and joked. In fact, this little girl didn't need anyone to supervise her. When she was serious, they couldn't catch up with her even if they worked together. All right. Len Ruoxue smiled and nodded. She then brought First Elder and the rest out of the bracelet. However, once she was out of the bracelet, Len Ruoxue was surprised to find that there was no one in the courtyard. What was going on? Where did everyone go? She turned to look at the Great Elder, who knew that the Great Elder was also looking at her with a confused expression and said, Little girl, I don't know where they are. Does Azure know? Len Ruoxue asked as she looked at Song. I don't know. I only care if there's an enemy ambush. I don't care about the guy who's still alive and kicking. Azure arrogantly pouted. Ah. While Len Ruoxue was speechless, she could not help but feel worried. She had asked Qing Ju in private just now, but he had answered that she had not paid much attention to it. In the end, Len Ruoxue and the rest finally found Master Ning's figure in a corner of an empty garden. The master of the Ning family, who was discovered by them, was holding a jar of wine in his hands, and his little face was red from drinking. His eyes were blurred, and he seemed to not see them when he saw them. A bunch of heartless things. They actually left me alone and ran out to play. Hearing this, Len Ruoxue and the others exchanged glances and understood. So Uncle Long and the others went out to play in a group. No wonder he didn't see anyone. But where did they go? Len Ruoxue wanted to know where Uncle Long and the others were. After helping her drunk godfather up, she asked patiently, Godfather, where did Uncle Long and the others go? Godfather? Who are you calling? I'm not Godfather, I'm Master Ning. Moreover, I only have one goddaughter. Who are you? Master Ning's eyes widened as he studied Len Ruoxue for a long time before he asked. He was so drunk that he couldn't even recognize her. First Elder and the others were speechless. However, Len Ruoxue still patiently said, I'm your goddaughter. Liar. My goddaughter isn't like you. Master Ning didn't believe him. What does your goddaughter look like? Hearing the old man's words, First Elder could not help but ask. My goddaughter is very pretty, not as ugly as you. So, you can't lie to me. Master Ning pointed at the Great Elder with a look of disdain. Obviously, he had taken the Great Elder as his goddaughter who was about to acknowledge her father. Your sister. You're the ugly one. Your whole family is ugly. Hearing Master Ning's words, the First Elder was so angry that he immediately roared. Then, he grabbed Master Ning's collar and said fiercely, Old thing, look carefully. I'm not your goddaughter. With a pft, when Shin Nua and the others heard this, they could no longer hold back their laughter. Chapter 2852, Len Ruoxue, you and I are irreconcilable, too. These two people were so cute. How could they have such a conversation? For a moment, everyone laughed so hard that they couldn't even straighten their backs. Seeing everyone laughing so happily, the Great Elder's face instantly flushed red, and he directly grabbed Master Ning's collar, dragged him to the corner, and gave him a loving education. Your sister. Who told you to randomly acknowledge a goddaughter? Open your bull eyes and see who I am. The Great Elder lectured as he roared. Master Ning was like a little wife who had been bullied, and he choked back a sob. Wah! You're a demon that bullies people. The banging sounds from not far away and the conversation between the two of them made Leng Ruoxue extremely speechless. It seemed that after getting drunk, her godfather's intelligence had dropped to a certain level. He had even forgotten to fight back. AI. What was this good? Leng Ruoxue was a little worried. He couldn't just watch as the Great Elder beat his godfather up, right? Even though the Great Elder would not really kill him. However, getting hit would still hurt. However, before Leng Ruoxue could go over to stop him, loud laughter by her ears had already attracted her attention. Looking at Lu Feng, who was laughing so hard that he was panting heavily, Leng Ruoxue glanced at him coldly and said, "Laugh all you want. As long as you're not afraid that Godfather will take revenge on you when he wakes up." The laughter was forced to stop, and Lu Feng's face instantly turned dark. You bastard! How could he have forgotten about this possibility? Woo! Master Ning was beaten up by the old man, so he would definitely blame it on them. What should he do? Shuer, you have to help me. Lu Feng was a little scared and quickly asked Leng Ruoxue for help. He's my godfather. Leng Ruoxue reminded. I'm also your good friend. You can't favor one over the other. Scoundrel Lu Feng said, but he felt a little indignant in his heart. The one who hit them was obviously that old man, why did he have to blame it on the innocent? The heavens were really unfair. Good luck. Leng Ruoxue smiled and walked towards the corner. After rescuing his godfather from the Great Elder, Leng Ruoxue helped him into the room and gave him a hangover pill. After a while, Master Ning finally woke up. When he woke up, the first thing he felt was pain all over. He lowered his head and saw that his body was covered in dirt, grass, and flower petals. Was he being beaten up? You bastard! Who beat me up? Master Ning shouted at the top of his voice, scaring Lu Feng and the others into retreating, and putting on an appearance that it had nothing to do with him. However, the Great Elder wasn't afraid of Master Ning's anger. He even patted his shoulder and said calmly, "No one beat you up. You fell on your own. We were the ones who brought you into the room." Ah. Is that so? Raising his head to look at the Great Elder, Master Ning still had some doubts, but he still believed the Great Elder's words, and then asked, "What are you doing here, you old thing? When did you come out?" "I've been out for a while." The Great Elder said generously and threw a disdainful look at Lu Feng and the others. Hearing this, Master Ning was silent for a while, and then said with a worried face, "Since you're already out, when will Shuer be able to come out?" Thanks. Leng Ruoxue was silent. She could not help but wail in her heart. "I'm standing right next to you." Unfortunately, Master Ning, who was lost in his own thoughts, did not notice Leng Ruoxue's presence at all. He was really too sad. His goddaughter was in seclusion, and he had been abandoned by Uncle Long and the others. Sob. Was there anyone in this world who had a worse life than him? After a long time. Seeing that Master Ning had not noticed Leng Ruoxue's presence, First Elder pointed to the side and said, "Shuer came out, did you not see her?" "You're out? Where is he?" When Master Ning heard this, he immediately looked like he had been injected with chicken blood. He looked up and found Leng Ruoxue, who had a helpless expression on her face. "Godfather." Leng Ruoxue called out softly. "Bad girl, you still know how to come out. Woo-woo." She actually abandoned Godfather for so long. Master Ning started to complain non-stop after he hugged Leng Ruoxue the moment he saw her. First, he blamed Leng Ruoxue for being in closed-door cultivation for too long. Then, he complained to her and told her about the shameful behavior of Uncle Long and the others who had abandoned him. When Leng Ruoxue heard her godfather's words, she could not help but feel a little embarrassed. She's in closed-door cultivation, all right? How could he just come out? Besides, Uncle Long and the others didn't abandon him, did they? How did it become such a serious crime in Godfather's mouth? However, she finally knew the whereabouts of Uncle Long and the others. After that, Leng Ruoxue started to comfort her godfather, who had instantly become a bitter husband. After she finally managed to coax him, she decided to head to Yu City. Hearing this, Master Ning didn't want to be left behind and insisted on going. Leng Ruoxue had no choice but to let Sang Lu stay at home and bring Master Ning along. Of course, the First Elder and the others who claimed to be from the support group were also following them to the Imperial City. She teleported all the way. Leng Ruoxue's speed scared Master Ning and the rest. When they arrived at the Imperial City, they still felt like they were in a dream. At this time, the Divine Master's estate was getting more and more lively. Originally, there were only the snakes attacking, but after joining the insects group, it became more and more lively. These bugs and the venomous snakes worked together in perfect harmony. One of them entangled the people from the God Lord's manor on the ground, while the other launched a fierce bombardment from the air. In an instant, the people of the God Lord's manor fell in droves. Most of them were poisoned. Whether it was snake venom or bee venom, all of them were twitching and foaming at the mouth without exception. In addition, their bodies were red and swollen, and they were itching uncontrollably. Not long after, the only one who was unharmed on the God Lord's manor's side was Wu Chen. Of course, she was not completely unscathed. However, because she was also poisonous, the poisonous snakes and insects present had a relatively small effect on her. However, no one would be in a good mood after being entangled by a group of slippery and disgusting venomous snakes and bugs. Seeing more and more poisonous snakes and insects wrap around the fog and about to wrap her whole body, Uncle Long, who was watching from the side, couldn't help but poke Ice Soul and ask, "Senior Ice Soul, are we just going to watch? What else? Do you think we'll have a chance to make a move?" Ice Spirit said gloomily as she glanced at the scene. "Ah. I really don't have any." Uncle Long turned around and looked at Wu Chen, who was surrounded by insects. This woman really attracted too many bugs. "Then let's just watch the show. Don't let boss work hard for nothing," Ice Spirit said helplessly. Hearing this, Uncle Long didn't have any good ideas other than nodding. At this moment, Wu Xian was almost driven mad by anger. Bastard! These hateful guys were simply looking for death. They actually all stuck to her body, biting, scratching, and entangled her tightly, leaving her with no time to fight back. How long had it been since he had felt so aggrieved?